Chapter 1544. Tianyun insta-killed a heavenly god with lightning speed, stunning the other two heavenly gods. Especially heavenly god Xiu Xing. He knew that Tianyun was a little strange, but he never thought that it would be this strange. Everything was so strange. All of a sudden, he appeared next to his companion and killed him in an instant. They had joined forces to unleash a spatial sealing formation. Let alone a lesser heavenly venerate, even a heavenly god would be sealed. Who would have thought that against Tianyun, it would be as if everything had lost its effect. Instead, one of their heavenly gods was killed. You killed my brother, I'm going to kill you. The heavenly god who had been silent all this while finally spat out a sentence. He immediately charged toward Tianyun and summoned 3 spirit treasures to surround his body. Only now did he completely unleash his full strength. He had underestimated his opponent before, but now that his companion had been killed, he was filled with grief and indignation. He unleashed his strongest power without any regard for anything else. Heavenly god Xiu Xing was also enraged. He immediately summoned 3 spirit treasures and charged toward Enlin. Because he had underestimated his opponent before, his companion had been killed. How could he dare to underestimate his opponent now? He was treating Tianyun as an equal opponent. Facing the attacks of 2 heavenly gods, Tianyun felt the pressure multiply. If it weren't for the fact that he had made a breakthrough in his cultivation, he would have been severely suppressed. Kill me. Then you guys can have fun. Tianyun sneered. He turned around and quickly teleported to the side, escaping from this area. In an instant, the distance between them was widened by a large margin. Tianyun wouldn't fight them head-on, especially when there were 2 heavenly gods. It would be very difficult to deal with them. It was already very difficult to deal with one, let alone 2 heavenly gods. Heavenly gods weren't cabbages. They weren't that easy to deal with. Thus, his main goal now was to escape. He would escape if he could. After escaping a certain distance, he tried to use the teleportation divine stone, only to find that it didn't work. It was as if he had been trapped. It's useless. Could it be that the nearby space isn't stable enough and the teleportation god stone can't be used? Tianyun's heart sank. This was something he hadn't thought of. Since a long time ago, the teleportation god stone was not an invincible means of escape. It still had various limitations. For example, if space was locked, one would not be able to escape. One could only use teleportation to escape. Right now, there was quite a bit of spatial turbulence in the surroundings, forming a thick seal that locked down the space, making it impossible to use teleportation god stones. In this case, he could only escape from this area and use the teleportation god stone again. Don't even think of escaping. Heavenly god Xiu Xing and the others hurtled toward Enlin at top speed, instantly closing down the distance between them. Celestial deities were celestial deities, the speed they erupted with was incomparable, far from what Empyreans could compare to. Even if Tianyun activated his Kuan Peng bloodline, he still wouldn't be able to match their speed. It would already be impressive if he could keep up with them, let alone surpass them. Tianyun's crazy damage mode provided damage, not speed. This was why there was such a gap between them. He could quickly close the gap between them in terms of combat prowess, but he couldn't close the gap in terms of speed. Tianyun's expression darkened, but he could only continue flying forward. At the same time, his body flashed, and he disappeared on the spot. In the next instant, he teleported to another area. He didn't dare to teleport too far away. There were too many spatial turbulence in the surroundings, and if he got too close, he would be sucked into it. Don't even think of escaping. They roared angrily and continued to chase after Enlin. Their speed increased again, and they rushed toward Enlin with all their might, completely ignoring the spatial turbulence around them. An enraged heavenly god was quite terrifying. Go! Tianyun tossed out several inferior-grade heavenly venerate spirit treasures in quick succession, which exploded toward the 2 of them. After the extreme heavenly venerate spirit treasures were detonated, a violent explosion enshrouded them. Moments later, they broke through the explosion and continued to chase after Lin. The explosion only had a minor effect on them, almost negligible. All of their heavenly venerate spirit treasures were brought out. Regardless of whether it was defense or attack, they all increased a great deal. Just detonating these low-level heavenly venerate spirit treasures would not cause any major damage to him. Useless. Then change to another one. Tianyun ruthlessly threw out a middle-level heavenly venerate spirit treasure again, detonating the power inside. Boom. Boom. Compared to a low-level heavenly venerate spirit treasure, it was several times stronger, even over a dozen times stronger. The flame tongues of the explosion directly swallowed them up. The power was much greater, at least equivalent to an upper heavenly venerate's all-out attack. Furthermore, it was the extremely strong kind. This kid is really willing to part with it. They rushed out of that explosion again, already in sorry states. It was not like before when they only had a little bit of injuries. But overall, there was not too much of a problem. The impact was not great. This kind of offensive made them pause for a short while, but they continued to chase after again very quickly, their hearts exploding with anger. When we catch him later, we must skin him alive for me. His grandma, what a freak, detonating heavenly venerate spirit treasures twice in a row let them experience what was called extravagance. If it were them, they would not dare to be so wasteful. If they saw Tianyun crazily flinging out many heavenly venerate spirit treasures before, they would know what was called squandering. When they just came out of the explosion, they looked up and discovered that there was no one in front of them. Where is he? Just as they were in a trance, a sense of crisis came from behind them. 5 giant dragons pierced through the defenses of one of the celestial deities, closely following that, continuing to penetrate inside, sneak attack. Tianyun's favorite way to deal with these powerhouses was to sneak attack. Using the effect of instant transmission, he could absolutely toy with them in circles. Break for me. Tianyun roared angrily. Extreme penetrative power superimposed on the 5-dragon divine spear, all of his power similarly pouring out. Get lost for me. This celestial deity roared angrily, reaching out a hand to slap over here, wanting to smash the divine spear that pierced over flying. But Tianyun's speed was a tad faster. A spear flung over, puncturing this celestial deity's body. Boom. The two were blasted flying at the same time. Tianyun was smashed flying out, and the other party's body was also blasted to smithereens. But he did not die, merely suffering serious injuries. Tianyun was smashed by this move and similarly suffered considerable injuries. Sure enough, clashing head-on with a celestial deity who was prepared, he could not achieve the degree of crushing them for the time being. Dealing with them was very difficult. Unless his cultivation went a step further, perhaps his sneak attack just now could have killed them in one move. Even if he could not kill them in one move, he could at least make them lose combat strength. Right now, he could only seriously injure them, not kill them. Chapter 1545. Tianyun didn't manage to kill the heavenly deity, but the damage he brought caused them to feel incomparably shocked. He almost succeeded. Just think about it, a lesser Empyrean being able to seriously injure a celestial deity, it was enough to scare people to death. Even if it was a sneak attack, it was still very shocking. Especially when he was prepared, he was still able to do this. This proved that it was quite shocking. Damn it, this brat is too strange. The two of them were shocked and angry. They didn't expect that a brat could seriously injure them. Not only did he kill their companions, but he also heavily injured them. This was definitely out of their expectations. This kid can't be left alive. The two of them glanced at each other. The 3 Empyrean spirit treasures revolving around them bloomed with dazzling light as they bombarded Tianyun. This time, they were beginning to overdraw on the strength of their Empyrean spirit treasures. At the cost of their Empyrean spirit treasures, they were fiercely attacking Tianyun. No matter how much pain they felt in their hearts, they could only let it out. If they allowed Yi Tianyun to continue his sneak attacks, they would really be finished. Hu. Yi Tianyun quickly recovered from the injuries in his body. His injuries were not light, but with his super recovery ability, he quickly recovered from most of them. Even so, it would be troublesome for him to launch another sneak attack. Through this sneak attack, he had a rough idea of the gap between them. The difference in cultivation was still too great. My speed is still a little lacking, level up. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed, he immediately spent crazy points on Kunpeng bloodline. Ding! The rock bloodline has been upgraded to level 3. Speed increased by 50 times. Below the heavenly venerable level, originally, the Kunpeng bloodline could increase one's speed by 100 times. Now, after the upgrade, it did not increase one's speed by much. Instead, it decreased to 50 times. However, it was allowed to increase the speed by 50 times under the cultivation of an Empyrean. This was already enough. Previously, when he broke through to the heavenly venerable realm, he could only increase his speed by a few times or a dozen times. Now that he had leveled up, his speed had increased by more than 50 times, which meant that he would be many times faster than before. But correspondingly, the amount of crazy point required is really enough, and a lot of it was deducted at once. Fortunately, he didn't use much crazy point recently, so he could level up. Just as he finished leveling up, the attacks of the two in front of him happened to hit him. Yi Tianyun's figure flickered, and the image of a Kunpeng appeared behind him. Whoosh! It was countless times faster than teleportation. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from their sight. Boom! At the same time, their attacks exploded in the area where Yi Tianyun had been. The affected area was extremely wide, and even the ancient ruins nearby were affected. Rocks flew everywhere. This kid, let's see if he can survive this time. They heaved a sigh of relief. It would be strange if they didn't die after expending so much energy. The power of their attacks was truly at the level of a powerful lower-level heavenly god. Let alone an Empyrean, even an ordinary heavenly god would be severely injured. Just when they thought that everything was over, the 5 enormous dragons seemed to have passed through time and space, roaring madly from behind them. They rushed into the body of the heavenly deity that had been heavily injured before. How? Boom! The spear was like a dragon, roaring and tearing apart everything. Before this heavenly god could even react, he was already blasted into dregs. The attack this time truly tore through everything, completely wiping out this heavenly deity. Before, it didn't completely penetrate the inside of the heavenly god, but now, taking advantage of the fact that he was killed, it completely crushed him at a faster speed. To be able to kill a heavenly god, the difficulty was really not small. The attack was enough to kill him, but the speed was half a beat slower. Now that the speed has increased, it finally filled a loophole and killed him at a faster speed. This is also thanks to these two guys. They were too confident in themselves and thought that they could really kill Yi Tianyun. It has to be said that the attack range is really wide, a large area was blocked, but for him, it was useless. With the amazing speed of the Kunpeng, he quickly escaped from the attack range. Especially with instant teleportation, it is the perfect escape plan. Ding! Successfully killed 8 Cloud Heavenly God, 60,000 compressed Crazy Point, 40,000 compressed Sin Point. Obtained 8 Cloud Spirit Treasure, Lower Level Heavenly Lord Spirit Treasure, 8 Winds Spirit Treasure, Middle Level Heavenly Lord Spirit Treasure, 8 Grades Spirit Treasure, Upper Level Heavenly Lord Spirit Treasure. Obtained additional kill reward, 50,000 compressed Crazy Point. The reward once again exploded, which made Yi Tianyun feel extremely comfortable. If he kills 2 or 3 more heavenly gods, he will be able to level up again. This speed of leveling up is absolutely amazing. Your speed. Heavenly god Xiao Xing was stunned. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be able to sneak around them and attack them again. This time, he was really scared. He even suspected that Yi Tianyun's cultivation is at the heavenly god level, otherwise how could he be so powerful? What's wrong with my speed? Now that you are the only one left, let me see the power of your heavenly god realm. Yi Tianyun snorted coldly. Heavenly God Xiao Xing definitely won't let him go. He will never let go of those who want to kill him. Even if he can't kill them right away, after a while, he will hunt them down for revenge. He has always believed in revenge, this is the principle he always believes in. Heavenly God Xiao Xing's face sank, he didn't expect that after losing 2 of his companions this time, Yi Tianyun still wants to challenge him. You're just as arrogant as your master. Heavenly God Xiao Xing began to activate the power of his bloodline, and his 3 heavenly venerate spirit treasures began to burn relentlessly. He really was going to go all out this time. Even the slightest loss of his heavenly venerate spirit treasures was extremely distressing to him. Now, he discovered that if he didn't do this, he wouldn't be distressed anymore. After all, he was going to die right away, so what was there to be distressed about? I don't know what your true cultivation base is, but the final outcome is that you will die. Heavenly God Xiao Xing let loose an enraged roar before charging toward Yi Tianyun. There was no escape route, and he had to unleash his full power in order to unleash the power of a heavenly god. Yi Tianyun was immediately struck by a sense of pressure. It looked like there was still a huge gap between him and heavenly god Xiao Xing, only an idiot would attack you head-on. Yi Tianyun didn't plan to engage in a head-on battle from the very beginning. The disparity between their cultivation bases was clear for all to see, and it didn't seem like it was fair and square, but the winner takes all. If he didn't take advantage of his advantages and chose to attack head-on instead, wouldn't that be the behavior of an idiot? His body then flashed, and he disappeared into space to hide there, not planning to come out. It's no use hiding in space. Heavenly God Xiao Xing waved a hand, and a large expanse of space was torn open in an attempt to dig out Yi Tianyun. However, what he tore open was a vast expanse of space, and there was nothing there. Immediately afterward, a figure appeared beside him before unleashing a ferocious attack. Boom! The 2 attacks collided, and both of them were knocked flying. Yi Tianyun was knocked flying the furthest, but he was still in a relatively good condition. Chapter 1546. After unleashing his full power, Heavenly Cultivation Star became far more difficult to deal with than before. It was quite clear that sneak attacks were no longer as easy to deal with. After slaying 2 heavenly gods in quick succession, Heavenly Cultivation Star would really be an idiot if he didn't become cautious. After unleashing his full power, Heavenly Cultivation Star quickly launched a frenzied attack toward Yi Tianyun. Each and every one of his attacks was lethal and lethal. Yi Tianyun could only quickly evade to the side. He didn't dare to face Heavenly Cultivation Star head-on. There was a massive gap between him and Heavenly Cultivation Star, and he would definitely be at a disadvantage if he fought head-on. I either have to stall for time, or I have to run. He only had 2 choices now. If he continued to stall for time, Heavenly Cultivation Star would definitely be exhausted. Heavenly Cultivation Star was unleashing his full power, so he definitely wouldn't be able to last much longer. However, he really didn't know how long he would be able to last. At the very least, Yi Tianyun could only just barely evade under the relentless barrage of attacks. He would occasionally be struck, and he felt like his body was about to be torn apart. The other choice was to run. If he ran, he would still be able to escape from a heavenly god. After weighing the pros and cons, Yi Tianyun could only choose to run. It looked like Heavenly Cultivation Star wouldn't be exhausted anytime soon. If he was forced into a corner, then it would be extremely troublesome. He immediately fled to the side at his fastest speed, leaving Heavenly Cultivation Star in the dust. Don't even think about getting away. Heavenly Cultivation Star caught up to him at an even faster speed. He didn't want Yi Tianyun to get away. If he did, then he would really be screwed. After all, if Yi Tianyun went back and told the great Devis about this, then he would definitely be screwed. Even if there was no evidence, the great Devis would definitely trust his disciple rather than him. The distance between Yi Tianyun and Yi Tianyun was quickly shortened, and he quickly threw out 3 celestial master spirit treasures towards Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun's heart sank. There was no way for him to evade now, so he could only face them head-on. There was a lot of spatial turbulence around them, so he didn't dare to use teleportation to escape. Open! Tianyun erupted with his full strength. He brandished his long spear and smashed it out. 3 Empyrean spirit treasures flew over and collided with his attack. Boom! A violent collision directly bombarded him, sending him flying. He tumbled a few times, his internal organs tumbling, and he felt as if they were going to shift positions. He quickly healed himself, twisted his body, and fled to another area. Suddenly, the surrounding void began to distort and then rapidly collapse. A giant spatial rift appeared. Then, the violent space turbulence sucked them in. They didn't even have the chance to struggle before they were sucked in. Tianyun only felt a pulling force coming from below. In an instant, he felt like he was being swallowed, completely submerged in the space turbulence. He felt that no matter what he did, he would not be able to break free from this place. As for teleportation, there was no reaction at all. He was completely locked in by the spatial turbulence. Spatial turbulence. Heavenly God Xiao Xing's heart jolted upon seeing this, and he immediately turned to flee into the distance. He might be able to escape from normal spatial turbulence, but there was no way to escape from this place. This spatial turbulence was simply too vast. If he was sucked into it, he would be dead for sure. Even if he didn't die, who knew where he would be teleported to? If he was teleported to a remote corner or a dangerous area, he wouldn't even know how to get out. So he immediately gave up on killing Tianyun and turned around to run away. Moreover, according to this situation, there is no need for him to do anything. Tianyun will die here, why would he need to do anything? Since you're here, then don't leave. Tianyun suddenly unleashed a spear, and energy surged toward him as if it had taken a substantial form. Let go of me. Heavenly God Xiao Xing waved his weapon in rage to disperse the energy surging toward him. Tianyun's attack was naturally unable to stop him, but it could buy him some time. Even if it was only a few seconds, it would be enough. This was the situation he was in right now. After buying him some time, the spatial turbulence quickly swept toward him and dragged him in. Now, even Heavenly God Xiao Xing had been dragged in, and both of them were trapped. Why, you little bastard! Heavenly God Xiao Xing wanted to throw up a mouthful of blood. Never would he have thought that he would be dragged in here. He had almost escaped just then, only to be dragged back here. Now, both of them had been dragged into this spatial turbulence. Didn't you want to chase me just then? I'm giving you a chance now. Why don't you come in together and chase me? Tianyun smiled. The spatial turbulence around them began to twist and warp, and an extremely dangerous feeling surged toward them from all directions. However, he wasn't afraid at all. What could he be afraid of? He had been reborn. If you want to die, then die. Why did you drag me into this? Heavenly God Xiao Xing wanted to kill Enlin, but in this spatial turbulence, they were all separated and swept all the way to the very bottom. This was like a vortex that would constantly drag people into it until they reached the very bottom. At that time, the fate that awaited them, whether they would live or die, was really unknown. I don't want to die, and I won't die. Tianyun pointed at him. You're dead for sure. Remember to say goodbye to them when you go to hell. Your other friends will be joining you soon. At the very least, I won't die before you die. Heavenly God Xiao Xing was enraged, and he charged toward Tianyun with all his might. He wanted to kill Tianyun before he died. Tianyun smiled faintly, but he couldn't even be bothered to move. Heavenly God Xiao Xing's attack was quickly torn apart by the spatial turbulence, so it couldn't even touch him. Not to mention the fact that their attacks were being torn apart, even their bodies were starting to crumble. They could clearly sense a terrifying tearing force that was about to tear them into dust. This was undoubtedly a spatial turbulence of death, not some kind of spatial turbulence that could sweep people away. If they were teleported to another area, they would still have a chance at survival. However, they were being torn apart, which was completely different. This spatial turbulence has only just begun, so it's not the type of spatial turbulence that can be easily teleported out of. Yi Tianyun immediately knew that this spatial turbulence was going to tear them apart. Chapter 1547. Even a heavenly god would be dead for sure if they were swept into such a terrifying spatial turbulence of death. In particular, such a massive spatial turbulence was far more powerful than the ones in the outside world. It was at least a dozen times more powerful than the ones in the outside world. Even a normal heavenly god wouldn't be able to escape from such terrifying destructive power. As such, heavenly god Xiao Xing was also unable to escape. No matter how he struggled, it was all pointless. In the face of such terrifying spatial turbulence of death, he would be ground to dust. What a pity. Your attacks won't work here. I won't even be able to die in front of you. Yi Tianyun seems to be fixed in the turbulence, he can't even twist his body, as for flying, he can't move at all. It was as if he had been swept away by the waves. No matter how good his swimming skills were, he could only be swept away by the waves. Not only Yi Tianyun, but even heavenly god Xiao Xing was completely immobilized. As for attacking, even if he could, it wouldn't work. You're going to die in front of me. Heavenly god Xiao Xing's eyes were bloodshot as his three heavenly venerate spirit treasures enshrouded his body. Yi Tianyun can see that this is his final struggle, he can only hold on for a while at most, he can't hold on for too long. In the face of such terrifying spatial turbulence of death, he would still be ground to dust. He was doing this because he wanted to see Yi Tianyun die before him. He wanted to live a little longer. Is that so? You'll know when the time comes. Yi Tianyun also unleashed his own power to protect himself. His previous moves were useless here. What invincibility? What defense? In reality, this was only true for those with lower cultivation bases. In the face of this spatial turbulence, there was still a huge disparity. If he could withstand the spatial turbulence, that would mean that he would be able to easily withstand a powerful attack from a heavenly god. If that was the case, he would have used it a long time ago. As time passed by, they were quickly dragged down into the spatial turbulence. The outcome was already set in stone, and there was nothing they could do to change it. Heavenly god Xiao Xing only hoped that he could survive. After all, as long as the spatial turbulence stabilized, he would have a chance to survive. Even if he was teleported to a dangerous area, he still had a chance to survive. Therefore, he did not give up the last bit of hope. Yi Tianyun had been reborn, and although he wasn't afraid, he didn't want to be torn apart so quickly. If he was reborn, he would be torn apart again, and that feeling wouldn't be good. Soon, the two of them were finally swept to the bottom. A terrifying tearing force came from all directions. Yi Tianyun could feel this terrifying power. If his cultivation was any lower, or if his physique was any weaker, he would have long been torn to pieces. He was only able to persevere until now because of the support of his powerful bloodline. Heavenly god Xiao Xing wasn't in a much better state. He didn't think that Yi Tianyun would be able to hold on for so long. However, both of them looked on with bloodshot eyes and didn't say anything. Now that it was the most critical moment, how could he have the strength to speak? He could only try his best to preserve his life. Finally, when they reached the bottom, the spatial turbulence swallowed them up, and the two of them were completely sucked in. The barrier around Yi Tianyun's body was completely torn apart after a short while. Immediately afterward, his body was engulfed inch by inch, and the excruciating pain surged straight into his head. Yi Tianyun felt as if he would rather die than live, but he was able to persevere through his immense willpower. However, just because he was able to repress the pain didn't mean that his body wouldn't disappear. Even with his powerful regenerative abilities, he would still be torn to pieces. As for heavenly god Xiao Xing, he had more treasures, so he had the upper hand. This allowed him to persevere for a while longer. He felt extremely elated as he watched Yi Tianyun being torn apart bit by bit. I told you that you would die sooner. A sinister expression appeared on his face. Even if he were to die, he would die after Tianyun. However, not long after that, the barrier around his body was also torn apart, and his body was also torn to pieces. He was still persevering with all his might. As long as his soul wasn't destroyed, there was a chance for him to be reborn. Both of them persevered. Before they knew it, their bodies had become blurry, and they felt as if they had been swept into a peculiar space. After the two of them completely disappeared, the spatial turbulence gradually shrank before completely disappearing, as if nothing had ever existed. In another space and time, Heavenly God Xiao Xing's entire body was blurry and indistinct. Only a small portion of his soul remained. I am not dead. Heavenly God Xiao Xing discovered that he was in a special space. He didn't know what kind of space this was, but he knew that he wasn't dead. As long as his soul was still present, he would be able to reconstruct his body and return to his original state. His body had been destroyed, and he would have to rest for several thousand years before he could return to his peak condition. Hence, even if he didn't die, he would still be half crippled. Ha, that little brat is dead for sure, but I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I survived this spatial turbulence. He wanted to laugh to his heart's content. After all, it was a good thing that he was still alive. However, he only had half a head left, so he couldn't even speak. It was already a good thing that he was still alive. Immediately afterward, energy began to emanate from his soul to reconstruct his body bit by bit. If he was disturbed now, he would also be dead for sure. Even though he was still alive, that didn't mean that he could be reborn right away. This process was extremely taxing, especially since he only had half a head left. Under normal circumstances, he would be able to recover very quickly even if he was missing an arm or a leg. However, he only had half a head left, so it was already very fortunate that he could recover slowly. In his current state, even a small child could smash him into a pulp. When his head was completely reconstructed and he was about to reconstruct his body, a figure suddenly appeared before him. After taking a closer look, he discovered that it was none other than Tianyun. Tianyun appeared before him, completely unscathed, and he looked at him with a very friendly smile. You really are a lucky bastard. You managed to survive even under such circumstances. However, it's a pity that you're going to die soon. A faint smile appeared on Tianyun's face, and it looked like the smile of a demon. How are you still alive? Heavenly God Xiao Xing was astonished. Even if Enlin had survived as long as he had, how could he have recovered so quickly? His cultivation base was higher than Tianyun's, so he would definitely be able to recover faster. Now that Tianyun had made such a complete recovery, how could he not be scared? Chapter 1548. Of course, Tianyun didn't die. In fact, he was still alive and kicking. His initial state was actually similar to Heavenly God Xiao Xing's. Both of them were in a half-crippled state, but after being reborn from the flames, he immediately became lively again. Rebirth from the flames didn't have to be triggered by death. It could also be triggered when one was on the brink of death. After being triggered, one could immediately be reborn and return to their original state. He was very satisfied with this divine skill. As such, he wasn't worried at all, let alone that he would die. However, there was something unexpected, which was that the power of his soul had increased. It had reached the level of the heavenly venerable initial stage in one go. This could be considered an unexpected surprise. He reckoned that it had improved bit by bit when he was enduring the tearing force. Forcing himself to persevere gave him a feeling that his soul power was being tempered. As such, he was able to make rapid breakthroughs and successfully break through to the level of the heavenly venerable stage. This speed was indeed enviable, but Tianyun didn't want to experience this feeling. It was simply too painful. The feeling of being torn apart bit by bit was too intense, and it was not easy to persevere. As such, even though he was making breakthroughs at an astonishing speed, he still didn't want to experience this feeling. This was an effect obtained by dying, so the improvement would definitely be astonishing. He would die if he wasn't careful. He might be able to be reborn, but who knew if there would be any accidents? Sometimes, rebirth wasn't omnipotent. For example, if he was reborn, he would immediately die, and then be reborn again. If this continued, he would run out of crazy points. How would he be reborn then? As such, he wouldn't do things that were too dangerous. He had too many things on his shoulders now. No, impossible, your cultivation base is so low, how could you be fine? Heavenly God Xiao Xing could speak again after recovering his mouth. The truth is right before my eyes. Believe it or not, it has nothing to do with me. However, I would like to see who the mastermind behind you is. Yi Tianyun grabbed the old man's head and started searching his soul. Under normal circumstances, it was very difficult to search the soul of a heavenly god. A heavenly god's soul was very powerful, and his cultivation base was even more powerful. A slight backlash could kill him, so how could he dare to search his soul? However, things were different now. Heavenly God Xiao Xing was in a half-crippled state, and his soul was also half-crippled. How was he supposed to retaliate? Under Yi Tianyun's forceful soul-searching, surging energy quickly surged into his brain, and he began to crazily search his soul. Ah! Heavenly Cultivation Star began to struggle, but he was unable to put up any resistance aside from howling with all his might. The memories in his mind began to be quickly extracted. Some could be searched, and some could not. Soul search was the most common martial art, but it was also the martial art with the most loopholes. To put it bluntly, it wasn't complete enough. As such, when Zhang Xian tried to search someone's soul, he would only be able to obtain a small portion of it. Unless the other party didn't struggle at all, it would still be very difficult to search the other party's soul. Because of this, the memories Yi Tianyun obtained were all fragmented. He didn't really care about that. As long as he could obtain a portion of Heavenly Cultivation Star's memories, that would be enough. At the very least, he would be able to find out what Heavenly Cultivation Star was up to. Moments later, Heavenly Cultivation Star frothed at the mouth, and he appeared to be half unconscious. After such a casual soul search, his soul was severely injured. Even though he didn't become an idiot, he looked no different from an idiot. Well, there are still a lot of things that I don't understand, but I know a lot now. Yi Tianyun stood up and raised his foot to stomp on Heavenly Cultivation Star's head. Bang! Heavenly Cultivation Star's head exploded. Ding! Successfully killed Heavenly Cultivation Star, received 6 million compressed EXP, 50,000 compressed CPS, 40,000 compressed SPS. Obtained Cultivation Star's Spirit Treasure, Lesser Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure, Heaven Cultivation Spirit Treasure, Intermediate Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure, Cloud Cultivation Spirit Treasure, Upper Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure, Heaven Cultivation God Realm Map. Obtained additional reward of 50,000 compressed CPS. He was extremely satisfied with the explosive EXP he obtained again, which was why he didn't want to let them go. How could he not eat a piece of meat that was delivered to his mouth? It was just that it was a bit difficult to kill Heavenly Cultivation Star, but the heavens were really helping him now. Not only that, but he also obtained some information. Immediately after, he shifted his gaze to the surroundings and discovered that there were chains in the sky. It was not the ordinary blue sky, nor was it the planets outside. What he saw was a chain that sealed off the entire sky. An oppressive power came from above, making him feel a bit uncomfortable. Where is this place? Yi Tianyun looked at the chain above him and started to analyze it with his appraisal eye. Heavenly Tao Shackles seals all the power of the Heavenly Tao, suppressing one's cultivation base, making it impossible to break through. Huh? Yi Tianyun was really shocked after investigating it. He didn't expect this kind of thing to exist. It sealed off the entire space, and it was mainly used to suppress one's cultivation base. His cultivation base was still at the lesser heavenly venerable realm, but he knew that it was definitely not to suppress one's cultivation base, but to make it impossible to break through. The teleportation divine stone can't be used either. Yi Tianyun's brows furrowed. He didn't think that the place he had been teleported to would be so special that even the teleportation divine stone couldn't be used. The teleportation divine stone had always been his life-saving divine stone. As long as he hid, he could easily escape to another area and no one would be able to stop him. However, things were different now. He could only use it successfully if the space around him wasn't sealed off and he was relatively safe. His cultivation base was too low in the past, and the enemies he faced were too weak, so he naturally couldn't use it to seal off the area. Now that he was facing heavenly venerates and heavenly gods, the teleportation divine stone was immediately useless and couldn't be used as an escape tool. He could only use things like instant teleportation to escape to a safe area. Looks like I'll have to find a way out of this place, Tianyun thought for a moment, then rushed up to the heavenly Dao shackles, but when he rushed up to the heavenly Dao shackles, he was bounced back as if he hit a hard wall. This was not unexpected. He knew that it wouldn't be so easy to break through, but he didn't think that there wouldn't even be a single crack. Open for me. Tianyun took out the 5-dragon divine spear and fiercely stabbed at the heavenly Dao shackles. But with a loud bang, even with his full strength, he was unable to break open a single crack. Instead, the power of his attack was repelled, sending him flying back. Chapter 1549. There's no effect. Tianyun's heart sank. He had already used his full power, an attack that could even injure a heavenly deity. However, it could do nothing to the heavenly Dao shackles. Instead, it reflected the force of his attack, making him dizzy. Blood leaked out of the webbing between his thumb and index finger, and he nearly lost his grip on the 5-dragon divine spear. Just thinking about it made Xiaoqin feel uncomfortable. He had to bear the majority of the force of his attack. Clearly, the level of the heavenly Dao shackles was not something he could break. Furthermore, the heavenly Dao shackles did not belong to the category of divine seals. Hence, with Xiaoqian's current level as a divine inscriber, not to mention rank 6 or rank 7, even a rank 9 divine inscriber would be useless. As the name suggested, the heavenly Dao shackles could lock out heavenly Dao energy. Without heavenly Dao energy, there would be no heavenly tribulation or heavenly Dao energy. Normally, those who used heavenly Dao energy would need it when they broke through to the star venerate level. Without heavenly Dao energy, it would be hard to break through. This was like an earth monarch. They needed heavenly Dao energy to cultivate and even snatched heavenly Dao energy from the heavenly tribulation to raise their strength. This was like snatching resources from the heavens, continuously snatching heavenly Dao energy. Now that Xiaoqin no longer had heavenly Dao energy, how could he cultivate? It looks like there is no way to destroy this place. Tianyun turned his head to look to the side. He immediately saw a city in the distance. As for the actual situation, he just had to go over and ask. Following that, Xiaoqin flew to the edge of the city and quickly descended, heading inside. When he arrived at the bottom of the city, he saw many cultivators coming and going. Their cultivations were relatively low. Tianyun casually looked around and saw that the strongest cultivator was only a void spirit stage cultivator. This was the cultivation that Xiaoqin had seen in the Fan Yu a long time ago. Back then, this cultivation had been very strong. If he continued to break through, he would have become a holy king. It was just that he had seen too much. His cultivation level was really not enough to look at. He only needed to use his soul sense to see the whole picture of this place clearly. He also knew how strong the cultivators inside were. There were basically all kinds of cultivators here, and there was no discrimination. He followed him directly into the city, and no guards stopped him. There were people coming and going here, and as long as it wasn't someone special, no one would come to stop them. The environment here is not bad. Tianyun looked at the situation on both sides. Most of the things that should be sold were available. It was considered normal. However, there was no heavenly energy here. It was as if he had returned to the place where Fan Yu was, making it difficult for him to break through. At the same time, the resources here were quite limited. Some of them were Fan Yu level, but there were basically no high-level resources. After carefully looking around, there was nothing strange about the overall situation, except that the security was quite tight. However, it was not the cultivators who were guarding this place. Instead, it was the people on the city wall outside who kept staring outside. It was unknown what they were on guard against. Then, his figure flashed and disappeared. At the same time, in the city lord's room at the center of the city, City Lord Wu was reading a book. At this time, a voice sounded in his ear, "You are the city lord here, right?" City Lord Wu was shocked and turned his head to look over. He didn't know when a young man was sitting next to him and looking at him, but he didn't notice it at all. "Yes, I am the city lord here. May I know why you came to my Donghua city, sir?" City Lord Wu quickly suppressed his shock and changed his attitude to one of respect. He was the strongest here, which was the void spirit stage. Since he could easily come to his side and sit down to look at him, he believed that his cultivation must be higher than him. Since that was the case, he would definitely not be so impulsive and scold the person who came. He knew that if the other party wanted him dead, he would definitely do it secretly. So, he acted very calmly and showed the demeanor that a city lord should have. "I happened to pass by here and would like to ask you something." Yi Tianyun saw that City Lord Wu calmed down so quickly and felt that he was quite a character. "May I know what you want to ask, sir?" "I will answer all I know." City Lord Wu smiled. "I want to know when the heavenly Tao shackles above were formed." Yi Tianyun pointed up and asked. "Those things are called heavenly Tao shackles." City Lord Wu shook his head and said, "As for how they formed, I'm not very clear. They seem to have appeared a long time ago, and have been there for a long time." Yi Tianyun looked at City Lord Wu. It was obvious that he couldn't know the details. He didn't even know about the heavenly Tao shackles, so what information could he get from him? "Appeared a long time ago?" Yi Tianyun continued to ask. "Yes, appeared a long time ago, but we really don't know when exactly it appeared." City Lord Wu shook his head and said. "Then do you feel anything strange?" Yi Tianyun asked. "Strange? What can be strange? If there is anything special, there is one." "Report, report." At this time, the guards rushed in from outside. When they saw Yi Tianyun inside, they were stunned. They were clearly guarding outside and didn't see anyone come in. Why was there suddenly someone here? Is it the mutated race? City Lord Wu said coldly. "Why yes. It's the mutated race." The guards reacted and quickly nodded. "Sir, I'm very sorry, but I have something important to do now. If you want to ask anything else, please wait until we chase the mutated race away." After saying that, City Lord Wu cupped his hands apologetically to Yi Tianyun, turned around, and flew out. Mutated race? Yi Tianyun thought for a moment and flew out with City Lord Wu. When he followed them out of the main city, he immediately saw that there were many evil spirit races attacking from outside the city walls. The few arms on their backs were their symbols. However, their cultivation was not high. They were all around the void spirit stage, and there were even lower levels. As soon as they arrived, they laughed loudly and swept over, grabbing cultivators one by one and devouring them. "It's actually the evil spirit race." Yi Tianyun's eyes darkened. He didn't expect to see such things here. After they attacked, they kept grabbing cultivators to devour, and the guards' defense was basically useless. Their cultivation was too far apart, so how could they resist? However, they could only brace themselves and resist. They rushed up one by one and slashed as many times as they could. After City Lord Wu charged out, he took out a large saber and roared, "A bunch of trash, come and die." Chapter 1550. City Lord Wu rushed in all directions, wanting to kill the evil spirit race. However, just as he reached there, he was blocked by a powerful evil spirit race, not allowing him to attack. "I'll play with you." The evil spirit race mocked and intercepted him. City Lord Wu attacked crazily, but they were all easily blocked by the evil spirit race without any pressure. After blocking several times, the evil spirit race was a little tired of playing. It smiled and said, "I'm tired of playing. It's time to devour." Following that, the evil spirit race pounced over, and its speed instantly surpassed City Lord Wu's. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of City Lord Wu and waved its claws, wanting to tear City Lord Wu into several pieces. At this critical moment, City Lord Wu's figure flashed and barely dodged the attack. However, a large piece of his arm was torn off, and it was almost torn off along with his arm. Huff, huff, huff. City Lord Wu quickly retreated and dodged to the side. Cold sweat had already seeped out of his forehead, drenching his clothes. The sense of danger of death made him gasp for air. This feeling was truly uncomfortable. He had almost been torn into several pieces. The strength of this generation's City Lord is not bad, but it ends here. The evil spirit race pounced over again, wanting to devour City Lord Wu. City Lord Wu's expression changed. He wanted to quickly dodge, but how could his speed compare to the evil spirit race's? In the next moment, the evil spirit race opened its huge mouth to devour him. When he felt this sense of danger, his face turned pale, and his heart was filled with despair. He did not expect to die just like that. Other than despair, he was even more unwilling. At this moment, a figure flew over and grabbed the evil spirit race's head, fixing it in the air. Following that, a wave of energy frantically entered the evil spirit race's head, as if it was searching for something. My lord. City Lord Wu was immediately stunned when he saw it clearly. The person who suddenly appeared to save him was Yi Tianyun, who had appeared in his room earlier. At this moment, Yi Tianyun must have rushed over to save him. He had been at odds with the evil spirit race from the very beginning, so when he saw the evil spirit race, he naturally had to exterminate it. However, he did not immediately kill the evil spirit race in his hands. Instead, he began to frantically search his soul, wanting to understand the general situation. Under his powerful soul, the other party did not even have the chance to struggle, and all of his memories were obediently confessed. Immediately afterwards, the bodies of the evil spirit race in the other areas suddenly trembled and exploded into a cloud of blood mist. Pa pa pa. They exploded one after another. Some of the guards who were blocking didn't even understand what was going on before they saw the evil spirit race explode in front of them. Not long later, all of the invading evil spirit races exploded, dyeing the entire area red, making it look rather bloody. The group of guards and cultivators were dumbfounded. No one knew what was going on. Following that, the evil spirit race in Yi Tianyun's hand was thrown into the air by him. With a peng sound, it exploded into a bloody mist in the air. Just like the other evil spirit race, it could not be more dead. So that's how it is. However, minions are still minions. They still know too little. Yi Tianyun frowned. The contents of the memories he had obtained from the search were still too little. This level was simply too low, so the information he knew was naturally very little. City Lord Wu, who was at the side, was stunned. He never thought that this mysterious person would be so strong. Seeing this technique, he knew that the outsider at the side was killed by Yi Tianyun. However, Yi Tianyun didn't even move and killed them all. This kind of strength caused him to be dumbfounded. He really couldn't imagine what kind of cultivation level he had to be able to do this. My lord, thank you for your help. City Lord Wu immediately knelt on the ground. How could he still dare to stand? Actually, he was more worried that after killing the outsider, he would kill them. He didn't know why Yi Tianyun had come, so he could only think of the worst. Get up. Yi Tianyun reached into the void and pulled him up. He said calmly, don't worry. The outsider you mentioned is also my enemy. I have no ill intentions towards you. On the contrary, I'm here to help you. Help us. City Lord Wu's eyes were filled with joy when he heard this. Then thank you, my lord. There's no need to say anything else. These outsider tribes only attack after a period of time. Tianyun asked. Yes, every time they attack after a long period of time. Every time they come, they will devour quite a number of people. However, they won't kill us all. They will only let us go after devouring about half of the people. City Lord Wu said angrily, Dongyue City has had countless city lords. Every time, they devour the city lord. If not for my lord's help, I'm afraid I would also be dead. Every time, we are powerless to resist. Even if we want to escape, it's useless. The situation in the other cities is the same. They will only stop after more than half of their people are killed. This kind of feeling is like livestock being reared in captivity, right? Tianyun interrupted to help. Yes, yes. City Lord Wu felt a little awkward. He didn't want to say it out loud. It was too unpleasant to hear. It gave him this kind of feeling. In fact, it's like this. Tianyun narrowed his eyes. After searching their souls, he had a rough idea of the situation here. They were like livestock being reared in captivity. Every time they were fattened up, they would come to devour a wave of people. Rearing them in captivity and devouring them would be extremely beneficial. This was because the cultivators here had relatively low cultivation levels, but their bloodlines were all of a relatively good level. They could even be linked to ancient bloodlines. That's right, this group of cultivators was the possessor of ancient bloodlines. After absorbing the ancient heavenly venerate bloodline, he found that the concentration of their bloodline was not low. It could be said that it was an ancient bloodline. The effect of devouring it was undoubtedly a little stronger. In that case, everything made sense. This place was sealed by the heavenly Tao shackles to prevent their cultivation from advancing by leaps and bounds. Otherwise, it would be much more difficult to devour them. In the end, the area that Tianyun was swept into was actually a captive space, a space that was kept in captivity by a grade 5 god realm. As expected, the evil spirit race has some power in the grade 5 god realm. No wonder they are so arrogant. Tianyun recalled the time when he fought the evil spirit race in the outer god realm. Even the leader of the evil spirit race said that he was dead for sure. Now it seemed that facing a grade 5 god realm was really like hitting a rock with an egg. He had never been there, so he didn't know what kind of existence there was in a grade 5 god realm. However, it was very likely that there were many ancient heavenly gods alive. Chapter 1551. In the outside world, they all thought that the ancient bloodline, which was in existence with a relatively high concentration of bloodlines, had already become a legend or extremely rare. From the looks of it, it wasn't rare at all. It was completely trapped here and raised in captivity. After fattening for a period of time, he would devour a wave to increase the strength of the evil spirit race. The evil spirit race that was sent over were all very talented. After absorbing these bloodlines, they would undoubtedly become even more astonishing. To put it bluntly, it was a bit like the hunting ground of the evil spirit race's geniuses. When the number of livestock here increased, they could come over and harvest a wave. In this world, there were several large cities, and the total number of people was not considered high. However, with the combination of resources, the number of cultivators would still slowly increase. After accumulating to a certain extent, they would start to be hunted. However, as time passed, the bloodline would slowly become thinner. There was no doubt about this. If he wanted to increase the density and strength of his bloodline, he could only stabilize it by increasing his cultivation. Only by carrying on the family line would he be able to become stronger or denser. However, their cultivations were all fixed, and they were unable to break through to the Star Lord or Earth Lord realm. How could the density of their bloodline be dense? Therefore, this group of people would definitely become very ordinary existences in the end. However, this process was still rather long, enough for them to devour for a long time. It's very possible that there are other similar areas. Tianyun looked at the surrounding space. The cultivators in this area were limited to a certain cultivation level, and it was very likely that the other areas would be restricted to a higher level. This was truly equivalent to livestock. Different levels could be devoured by different levels of evil spirit race. Just thinking about it made one's hair stand on end. It was truly terrifying. When their strength increases, I'm afraid the second battle of the Divine Lord will be getting closer and closer. Yi Tianyun believed that it was very likely that a second battle of the Divine Lord would occur. How could those old fogies be willing? There must be some kind of power restraining them, which was why they did not immediately attack. If there was no power restraining them, he believed that with their personalities, they would have already killed their way out. Outsiders? Thinking about it carefully, they really can be called outsiders. Yi Tianyun knew that it was not only the evil spirit race, there were also other races that could not be considered his own race. Perhaps the demon race and the human race were hostile to each other, but these two races were friendly to other races. As for the evil spirit race, they were very sorry. Other than their own race, the rest were all enemies. Immediately, Yi Tianyun swept his gaze over them. He definitely had to rescue these people. Moreover, they all had ancient bloodlines. If they joined his faction, the results would be obvious after a period of nurturing. Sir, is there anything else? City Lord Wu felt goosebumps when he saw Yi Tianyun staring at him. I told you to contact the other city lords and prepare to evacuate at any time, Yi Tianyun said. Prepare to evacuate? City Lord Wu was startled. We can't leave this place. No matter where we go, it's sealed. I will break the seal here. When the time comes, I will take you to a safe place and arrange a good place for you to stay. Yi Tianyun smiled. This. City Lord Wu knelt down with a thud and said excitedly, Thank you, my lord. I will contact the other city lords now and get them to gather. These cities were separated so that it would be easier to collect resources. After all, it was such a vast area. If they were too far away, it would be difficult to collect resources. Their cultivation was on the low side, and it would take a long time to travel back and forth. That was why they were separated into several cities. Otherwise, they would not be able to easily collect resources to improve themselves. No matter how much they improved, they would not be able to break through. If a Star Lord was sent over, they would be completely destroyed. They could only work hard to fatten themselves up and then be slaughtered by others. Following this, Yi Tianyun flew away. He would leave the rest to City Lord Wu. He believed that he would definitely be able to handle it well. Even if the other city lords did not believe in Yi Tianyun, they would listen to City Lord Wu. More importantly, it was a form of hope. In any case, they would rather believe than not. This was a chance of survival. As long as they could escape, they would do it. They would also be slaughtered here. Even if they risked their lives, they would still be slaughtered. It was better to risk it and still have a chance of survival. After Yi Tianyun flew away, he quickly flew to the important area here, the Heaven Lock Altar. The Heaven Lock Altar was hidden at the edge, and with their cultivation, they could not see it at all. Not only did the Heaven Lock Altar control the energy of the heavenly Tao shackles, it was also a passage for outsiders. To put it bluntly, they could also leave from here. In other words, he would be able to escape from this place with them. He wouldn't even need to break the shackles of the heavenly Tao. However, he had to do this for the sake of intimidating them. If he wanted this group of people to successfully join and become loyal, there was no doubt that he would need extremely powerful strength to save them. Simply saving them might be able to move them, but if there was another powerful person to save them, they would be even more obedient. Strength could conquer everyone. These words were not nonsense. Inside the Heaven Lock Altar, there were two middle-level Empyreans guarding it. They were both experts of the evil spirit race, sitting here with nothing to do. They're too slow. Why aren't they back yet? One of the Empyreans was very dissatisfied. They had been gone for a while, but they still hadn't returned. They were waiting for the group of disciples that they had sent out to return and seal off the passage here. Then, their mission would be completed. If they wanted to open this passage, they still needed to open it. Otherwise, they wouldn't even bother to come here. I guess these animals have been fattened up too much. Didn't we put in more resources recently? They must have thought that they could make a comeback, but they didn't know that it was us who did it on purpose, allowing them to reproduce faster. What a bunch of fools. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, their eyes filled with ridicule. They felt that these cultivators were truly pitiful, waiting for them to slaughter and eat them. As expected of the evil spirit race, their thoughts are truly disgusting. A figure appeared at the side, causing them to be shocked. They hurriedly turned their heads to look, only to see an afterimage flash past their eyes. Soon after, they felt their bodies turn cold, and discovered that their bodies had been torn into pieces, leaving only their heads behind. Immediately after, their heads were held in the hands of a human, and the soul-searching technique was quickly activated, continuously digging out the memories in their heads. Human. They were stunned. When they saw that the one who killed them was a human, they didn't know what had happened. Chapter 1552. Tianyun frantically searched their memories. The two heavenly venerates did not even have the slightest resistance and were easily subdued by him. As his cultivation increased, dealing with middle heavenly venerates was no different from dealing with the Lord of Heaven to him. Especially under the suppression of the super heavenly venerate title, they did not even have the slightest resistance. The evil spirit race guards at the side were stunned when they saw this. After they reacted, they all rushed over. Tianyun looked at them coldly and exploded at the side, turning into piles of blood mist. The cultivation of these guards was relatively low, only at the star venerate level. To him, he did not even need to do anything. One look was enough to make them explode. After eliminating these guards, he would be able to focus on searching their souls. There were no strong guards here. There were no experts here in the first place, and there was nothing important here. Naturally, it was impossible to send experts over. These two middle heavenly venerates were here to help open the door. After closing the door, these star venerate guards stayed here to manage the situation. As the experts here were generally not strong, it was more than enough to have a few star venerate guards here. There is still too little effective information. Tianyun crushed his two heads and frowned. He still could not find much effective information in the memories of these heavenly venerates. They knew too little, but at least they knew what faction it was. As for the details of the internal situation, these heavenly venerates could not reach them. If he wanted to understand more, he would undoubtedly need to capture a heaven deity, an elder. Otherwise, he would not be able to find effective information. Then, he ignored this group of people and turned to walk down the heaven-lock altar. After passing through a long tunnel, there was a huge square formation below. This was the main formation of the heavenly Tao shackles outside. As long as this square formation was broken, the heavenly Tao shackles outside would naturally disappear. The effect of this square formation was to isolate the heavenly Tao energy, which was why the heavenly Tao shackles appeared. This was the brilliance of it. There was no way to break it outside, but the true location was inside the heaven-lock altar. The two were related, but also not. After all, the main purpose of this square formation was to block all the heavenly Tao energy outside. Under such circumstances, it would cause the heavenly Tao shackles to appear. The shackles of the Tao of heaven were not created by the square formation, but because of it. This square array is at the upper 7th rank. The person who set it up is no ordinary person either. Tianyun looked at the array. Actually, he could set it up, but he was too lazy to do so. To him, it was meaningless. He had no interest in captivity, only in destroying the evil spirit race's plan. Immediately after, he began to destroy the formation cores one by one. Fortunately, his grade was not low. Otherwise, he would not have been able to destroy them in a short period of time. Soon, under his destruction, the square formation was completely overturned. After the square formation was destroyed, the shackles of the heavenly Tao gradually disappeared, never to be seen again. After the heavenly shackles disappeared, waves of astonishing heavenly Tao energy surged over from all directions and entered the bodies of many cultivators. Quick, look, the wall above us is gone. Yes, yes. If the wall is really gone, doesn't that mean that we can escape? Then what are we waiting for? Hurry up and escape. Hurry up and leave this damned place, I don't want to see those outsiders anymore. When the cultivators saw that the heavenly Tao shackles had disappeared, they all rushed up, wanting to escape this place. However, before they could leave, a city lord immediately stopped them. Everyone, calm down. This was broken by an expert. We have to wait for that expert to come. That expert said that he would bring us to a safe place. If we run away casually, I think we will be caught by those outsiders very quickly. The city lord's words calmed them down. They were about to go crazy, so when they saw that the wall above them had disappeared, they could finally escape. However, this was only a small portion of them who could escape, because most of them could not fly, so how could they escape? It was not just this city. The city lords of the other cities also told them not to move and to wait for the arrival of the experts. At this moment, all the city lords believed that Yi Tianyun could bring them away. When City Lord Wu went to tell them before, none of them believed him. Now, it was different. The heavenly Tao shackles that had trapped them had disappeared, so they naturally believed him immediately. They believed that if even the heavenly Tao shackles could be broken, then it would not be difficult for him to bring them away. After following Yi Tianyun, he quickly arrived at Dongyue City. He found that a group of cultivators had already packed their things and were waiting for him. Sir, they have already packed their things and brought everything they could with them. May I know where Sir is heading to now? City Lord Wu hurried over, the shock in his heart reaching an extreme level. Initially, he was skeptical, not knowing if Yi Tianyun could break the heavenly Tao shackles. All along, the heavenly Tao shackles had trapped them for too long, making them think that they would never be able to break it in this lifetime. When he saw that the heavenly Tao shackles were really broken, he immediately felt that life was full of hope. Not only him, but the other cultivators too. He felt that he had welcomed a brand new life, as though he had come back to life. Everyone, come in here. Yi Tianyun quickly threw out the 10,000 gods pagoda. They definitely could not enter his inner world, so he let them enter the 10,000 gods pagoda. The 10,000 gods pagoda could still carry quite a number of people. At least, it would not be a problem to put them all in. God! Miracle! When they saw the enlarged 10,000 gods pagoda, they were all stunned. They did not expect such a treasure to exist. They followed Yi Tianyun inside, and their hearts were filled with gratitude and awe. How could they not be shocked by such a method? Not to mention them, even if it was someone of Yi Tianyun's cultivation, he would be stunned by such a method. Immediately, Yi Tianyun went to other cities and collected all the cultivators into the myriad divine tower. Needless to say, they were deeply shocked by Yi Tianyun's actions. None of them said a word and walked directly into the 10,000 gods pagoda. After all the cultivators had left, Yi Tianyun set the coordinates and flew out of the spatial zone. After flying out of the spatial zone, he realized that there were still many heavenly Tao shackles outside, which were divided into many regions. He casually looked around and saw that there were at least dozens of regions that were trapped by heavenly Tao shackles of different effects. Chapter 1553. Yi Tianyun was in a daze as he looked at the dozens of breeding grounds. He didn't expect so many people with ancient bloodlines to be trapped here and devoured one by one. It seemed that even though they didn't win the God Emperor battle, they still managed to snatch a group of people away before retreating. This method was really fast. Clearly, they had even thought of a way out. In order to make a comeback, they had prepared everything. The heavenly energy in this area is so dense. It seems to be a grade 5 God realm area. Yi Tianyun looked around and said, "No, it should belong to the inner space, an independent space that is separated from the rest of the world." There was a stronger aura of a god realm here, but there was no core here, nor was there the natural feeling of the outside god realm. Instead, there was a sense of imprisonment. This was similar to the myriad worlds god realm, where there were countless small worlds. They were all opened up and guided in the heavenly energy from the outside. Thinking about it carefully, it made sense. With so many people with ancient bloodlines here, if they were discovered or tried to escape, it would undoubtedly be very troublesome. Locking them up in a small world was undoubtedly a very wise choice. Correspondingly, Yi Tianyun still couldn't use the teleportation god stone here. After all, this was someone else's space. He couldn't use the teleportation god stone at will. Unless they left this space, there was no way out. From the side, it could be seen that the Almighty who set up this place was definitely of a very high level. In his opinion, the person who set up this place was at least an upper heavenly god, and a grade 8 or grade 9 divine inscriber at that. Then, he shifted his gaze to the other heavenly shackles. It seemed that saving them wouldn't be easy. If he wanted to open them up one by one, he would have to barge in one by one. If he saved them all and arranged them in the three realms god realm, his forces would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Thinking about it, they all had ancient bloodlines. Once they broke through, their cultivation would definitely be terrifying. Ancient bloodlines weren't something to be trifled with. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used heavenly shackles to trap them. Let's find a way out first. Otherwise, we won't even know how we died. Yi Tianyun was not in a hurry to save them. He wanted to find a way out first. If he didn't find a way out, once a few powerful heavenly gods attacked him, he wouldn't even be able to protect his own life, let alone escape with his men. Yi Tianyun quickly flew to other areas and released his spiritual awareness to the maximum in order to explore the surrounding area. If he wanted to leave, he would have to find the exit or forcefully break through the barrier. The former was the easiest to kill his way out, but it could also be said to be the most difficult. If the guards were strong, it would naturally be difficult for him to break out. The latter was not simple either. This world that had been opened up was not bad in the first place, so how could it be destroyed so easily? Therefore, Yi Tianyun's first choice was naturally the exit. Even if there were experts present, there was still a chance that they could kill their way out if they were to clash head-on. Very quickly, Yi Tianyun found the exit. After carefully inspecting it, he discovered that there were not two strong guards there, but they were not very weak either, two lower-level heavenly gods. Two lower-level heavenly gods as guards here, it was really a big deal. As expected of a 5th-grade god domain area, the guards were so strong. However, this was an extremely important area, so it was not surprising that heavenly gods would be arranged to guard it. Two heavenly gods. Not bad. Yi Tianyun felt that he could still charge through. As long as there were not a few more guards, there would not be any pressure. Then, he set the teleportation coordinates here. The teleportation god's stone could not leave this area, but it did not mean that it could not move within this area. This was like a room with a locked door, but it did not mean that one could not walk freely in the room. After investigating clearly, he immediately turned around and flew to other areas. If he looked from the outside, it would be very easy to find the entrance. If he looked from the inside, it would not be easy to find the entrance. Previously, the Heavenlock altar could only be easily found through the memories of the evil spirit race. If he were to find it, it would take some effort. The Heavenlock altar was too hidden, and it had been blessed by a 6th or 7th grade divine carving master, which meant that it was about the same level as him. Under such circumstances, it would naturally not be easy to find it. Let's go here first. Yi Tianyun randomly chose a relatively close one and rushed in one breath. There was actually a door inside, and it was completely closed. This door did not need any key. It only needed enough strength to open it. This was why two middle-level heavenly venerables were needed. This door needed 2 middle-level heavenly venerables to open together, which was enough to show how much strength was needed to open it. However, this was not a problem for him. He flew over and slammed into the door. With a boom, the door was ruthlessly smashed open. Don't forget, he had the strengthened version of the heaven-shaking divine art, which could make his body rapidly heavier, so that he could knock over everything. After the door was smashed open, the guards inside looked over respectfully. They thought that some lord had opened the door and entered. However, when they saw that it was a human, they were all dumbfounded. Yi Tianyun could not be bothered to talk to them, so he killed them with a flip of his hand. Before they died, they never thought that a human would come over. Didn't they say that they were on the same side? After killing the guards, he quickly flew inside and destroyed the square formation inside. Basically, the square formation was more or less the same. The only difference was that there was a bit more strength to increase the effect. Yi Tianyun quickly destroyed the square formation. In less than a moment, the square formation was destroyed. The heaven lock immediately disappeared. Many cultivators inside suddenly raised their heads. When they saw the heaven lock disappear, they really did not know what was going on. I have broken the heavenly Tao shackles, but there are many outsiders out there. If you want to run away, you will have to enter my treasure. Yi Tianyun said to Yi Tianyun, I have broken the heavenly Tao shackles, but there are many outsiders outside. The 10,000 divine pagoda once again became bigger and descended. When many cultivators saw it, they were slightly stunned. Then, they all ran in without hesitation. No one would doubt Yi Tianyun's words. Firstly, Yi Tianyun was not from the evil spirit race. Secondly, he helped them destroy the heaven lock. No matter what, he could not be a bad person. If he was a bad person, why would he spend so much effort? Usually, he would come here to kill countless companions. It was impossible for him to play any new tricks. So Yi Tianyun just said one sentence, and they immediately rushed in, and all of a sudden, they all evacuated. They could not be bothered to clean up. Escape first. Chapter 1554. After Yi Tianyun saved an area, he quickly went to the next area to save even more cultivators. Their reactions did not change much. They were all the same as before. After seeing him, they crazily rushed in without any hesitation. They had all suffered the corresponding damage, so they naturally knew what to choose. They had been hunted by the evil spirit race, and now that there was help, they would definitely be here soon. This saved Yi Tianyun a lot of trouble, and he did not need to waste his breath to explain anything. However, with other cultivators around, they would know what to choose after taking a look. Therefore, saving them one by one was not a big problem. Hurry up and come in, there's not much time left. Yi Tianyun had already broken through the 8th one. The square formation of the heaven lock altar was similar, so it was not difficult to break through. It was mainly because they cooperated well that he was able to save the 8th one so quickly. However, there were still many areas that had not been saved, and there were still many areas that were being held captive. Therefore, he had to be fast enough. Once he was detected and an expert was sent over, it would be difficult for him to continue saving them. Right now, he could save as many as he could. He definitely could not save all of them. He did not believe that this place would be so bad. If he only appeared after saving all of them, then he would really be a bunch of idiots. So this is the problem. At this moment, a figure appeared at the side. A lower-level heavenly god appeared out of thin air. When he saw Yi Tianyun continuously letting cultivators enter the 10,000 divine pagoda, he was stunned. He did not even know what was going on, but there was an extra human here. As the manager of this place, by the time he reacted to what was wrong, 8 areas had already been broken through, and a large number of cultivators had been rescued. The key was that he did not know, so how could a human come in? He did not receive any news at all, nor did he receive any information about the invasion. Everything was so unknown. He did not understand what was going on, but 8 areas had already disappeared. Just a heavenly god. Yi Tianyun saw that the person who came was a heavenly god of the evil spirit race, a patrolman or something like that. Fortunately, there were not a few of them at the same time, otherwise it would really be difficult to deal with. If there was only one, then it would be much easier to deal with. It was practically a free EXP. How dare you, human? How did you get in? The evil spirit race's heavenly god was furious as he tried to grab Yi Tianyun. He wanted to know how Yi Tianyun came in. There was no message from the other side of the passage, but Yi Tianyun managed to sneak in. Actually, Yi Tianyun didn't want this to happen. Who knew that the space could be transferred here? Spatial turbulence was truly unpredictable. One could be teleported to a strange region at any time. It was also possible for one to be teleported to another faction's territory. Everything was filled with the unknown. If it weren't for the spatial turbulence, he wouldn't have known that there were so many cultivators in captivity here. When Yi Tianyun saw that his opponent had not used his full strength, he knew that he had been completely underestimated. This was the advantage of having a weak cultivation base. As long as one didn't know him, they would think that he was just an ordinary lower Empyrean. Under such circumstances, the opponent would definitely not use more than half of his strength. After all, no matter how much strength he used, it was all in vain. With such a huge gap in cultivation, what was the point of spending so much strength? Was he trying to kill a chicken with a butcher's knife? The main thing was that the opponent wanted to catch Yi Tianyun, so it was impossible for him to use his full strength. He wanted to know where Yi Tianyun sneaked in. When the evil spirit heavenly god saw that Yi Tianyun didn't dodge, he thought that Yi Tianyun had given up struggling, so he continued to grab him. Just as the evil spirit heavenly god was about to touch Yi Tianyun's power instantly exploded to the maximum, and the evil spirit heavenly god was already decapitated. Before his consciousness disappeared, he didn't understand what happened, and he was already killed. Thank you for your patronage. Yi Tianyun's voice sounded behind him, and then his head was completely punctured and turned into a pile of blood mist. Heavenly gods were also insta-killed. This was especially so for those who were very stupid and often underestimated their enemies. They were even more easily insta-killed. Successfully killed evil spirit heavenly god. Reward, 6 million compressed EXP, 50. 000 compressed CPS, 30. 000 compressed SPS, obtained evil spirit bloodline, evil spirit blood, evil spirit soul, heavenly lord level. Reward, 100,000 compressed EXP for killing a heavenly god. Obtaining evil spirit bloodline again made Yi Tianyun's eyes light up. His evil spirit puppet has reached its peak, and now he can get this kind of thing again. It means that sneaking into the enemy's forces is not difficult at all. This method is tried and tested, absolutely no one can recognize it, and it allows him to save all the cultivators. Of course, his cultivation is still low. If he appears here, he will definitely be suspected. EXP is so much, one by one stupid heavenly god comes here, that's cool. Yi Tianyun was very satisfied and continued to signal other cultivators to come in. Those cultivators were stunned, they couldn't see the attack method clearly, but when the evil spirit heavenly god appeared, they felt their legs soften, and they didn't even have the courage to escape. But now it was killed by Yi Tianyun in a second. It is really scary. After killing a heavenly god, other heavenly gods quickly came over. This time, they didn't appear alone, but in groups. What's going on? A human actually came in. From the looks of it, it's a lower-level heavenly venerable. When they saw Yi Tianyun, all of them frowned, not understanding what was going on. Why would a human sneak in? Yi Tianyun looked around. 6 heavenly gods appeared in one go, as expected of a grade 5 god realm existence. Heavenly gods are really a common existence, but under the investigation of the appraisal eye, it is clear that the reason why there are so many heavenly gods is because they have absorbed other people's ancient bloodlines. Under the nourishment of such pure bloodlines, how could they not improve by leaps and bounds? Therefore, Compared to cultivators outside, it is much easier for them to break through. No matter what the situation is, we will know once we capture him. They didn't think too much, they just wanted to capture Yi Tianyun first. Immediately, two heavenly gods surrounded him, the other heavenly gods stood guard at the side, still misled by Yi Tianyun's cultivation. With this kind of cultivation, sending two heavenly gods is already thinking highly of him, let alone killing all of them. Yi Tianyun gripped the five-dragon divine spear tightly, the corner of his mouth curved into a cold smile. Then, I will accept these two heavenly gods without hesitation. As long as the battle is close enough, he has absolute confidence that his opponents won't even have a chance to react. So what if they are heavenly gods? After breaking through, with full power, he can still kill them in a second. Kill! As soon as he got close, Yi Tianyun immediately moved. He used teleportation and flashed behind them, then he swung his spear at them. Although it looked like a stab, it was actually several hundred stabs, directly turning them into a mist of blood. Chapter 1555. A celestial god was easily killed, and a large pile of experience and materials surged toward him again. Following that, Yi Tianyun teleported to the back of another celestial god and attacked again, easily killing another celestial god. Ding! Successfully killed celestial god evil spirit. Obtained 6 million experience points, piles and piles of experience points flooded in, making him feel extremely comfortable. Level up. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Tianyun for successfully breaking through to late-stage lower celestial lord. After killing so many celestial gods, it was finally enough for him to level up, so he did not hesitate to level up. After breaking through to late-stage lower celestial god, his overall strength increased by a large margin again, and the corresponding effects of other skills were suppressed a lot. The increase in cultivation brought about the compression of skills, but when released, it was still extremely heaven-defying. After all, the foundation was there, even if it was increased by dozens of times, it was still a heaven-defying level. He was now getting experience points, and was about to level up, especially when facing so many powerhouses, he definitely had to level up to deal with them. Now that he had not come back to his senses, he was afraid that when he came back to his senses, he would go all out, and then he would not be so easy to deal with. He did not want to let this group of bastards go, and he would kill as many as he could, especially with so many experience points. If he killed a few more, he would be able to rush to late-stage celestial lord. It's a pity that these guys absorbed so many ancient bloodlines, but the bloodlines that came out are still so trash. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Absorbing the power of other people's bloodlines only strengthened his own bloodlines, there was no big change. What? When they saw their companions killed, they were all shocked. It was just a blink of an eye, and before they could even react, they were already killed, not even having a chance to rescue them. Damn it, this kid is strange, let's subdue him together. After they came to, they all released their celestial god power to attack. This time, they did not dare to take it lightly. Two of their companions who were not inferior to them were easily killed. It meant that Yi Tianyun's strength was definitely not weak. Therefore, they did not dare to relax, directly exploding their powerful celestial god power, but they did not completely explode with their strongest power. In their opinion, with so many people surrounding them, how could they not be able to catch one person? Those who were instantly killed were mainly due to carelessness, which led to such a situation. This time, as many as 5 powerhouses came, and all directions were blocked, so they had full confidence that they could catch Yi Tianyun. They still want to catch him alive, not kill him casually. There must be an explanation here. If there is only one corpse left, they will be. As patrols here, under normal circumstances, they will be patrolling. But they just happened, there was only one exit, of demon, and they would have it. Who would have thought that it would suddenly appear? By the time they realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. Of them, they will be, and Dragon King, they, and celestial demon. Dragon. Of the celestial race sect, Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold, and he immediately threw a lot of crazy point into dragon and phoenix divine vein. Of Yi, he, of dragon, he, dragon, he, E, dragon, dragon, dragon of dragon, he of dragon, 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 he, of dragon he. Yi Tianyun didn't hesitate to upgrade dragon, phoenix divine meridian. This is a good thing, naturally, he needs to upgrade it. After the upgrade, the power is greatly enhanced, it can increase the power and speed, this is what he needs now. Powerful power is added to the weapon, the attack penetration is a little stronger. Killing many heavenly gods gave him enough crazy points to upgrade his bloodline. Unfortunately, crazy damage mode still can't be upgraded. If he wants to upgrade crazy mode, he must upgrade it to heavenly god stage. Obviously, even if the conditions to upgrade is met, there is a level limit. But it doesn't matter, the rest of the divine skills can be upgraded. Go! Yi Tianyun used all his power, and his speed soared, many heavenly gods only saw a blur in front of them. Immediately after, one of the heavenly gods used his fastest speed to block the attack, but his reaction was still half a beat too slow. The 5 dragons' roar skill whistled out, and the heavenly god's body was torn apart. At the moment when the heavenly god was torn apart, Yi Tianyun threw his spear again, and the heavenly god's soul burst. In an instant, a heavenly god was successfully killed. The first one. Yi Tianyun's eyes were cold, and he rushed behind the other heavenly gods again. The dragon and phoenix phantom behind him became bigger and bigger, enveloping this area. This made his speed even more amazing. Immediately after, he rushed to the side of another heavenly god, and threw his spear again. Even if the other party had defense, he was still killed. This is the result of underestimating the enemy. This is the same as the previous heavenly god Xiao Xing. After 2 of his companions were killed in a row, only then did he realize that Yi Tianyun is not simple. He immediately summoned all the Empyrean spirit treasures to suppress Yi Tianyun. He can immediately repel or even seriously injure him. Heavenly gods are not cabbages, and it is not so easy to cultivate. But once the enemy is underestimated, let alone lower heavenly gods, even middle heavenly gods will be killed. Unless these heavenly gods cultivate some amazing martial art that makes their defense extremely strong, the kind that is difficult to penetrate. After killing a heavenly god, he then turned to attack another heavenly god, without any delay. What he needs to do now is to kill them one by one while they are stunned and haven't used their full strength. If he can kill one, then he counts. Otherwise, it will be difficult to kill them later. He is very strong, and his speed is even stronger. Use all your strength, use all your strength. One of the heavenly gods immediately reacted, and with a furious roar, he released all the Empyrean spirit treasures, except for the heavenly god's spirit treasures. It seems that even for them, heavenly god's spirit treasures are not so easy to obtain. Perhaps only an even stronger existence can obtain them. This is also related to their cultivation. They are all early-stage lower heavenly gods, not even late-stage lower heavenly gods. One by one, the evil spirit heavenly gods immediately erupted with their strongest power, summoning their Empyrean spirit treasures, no longer daring to underestimate Yi Tianyun. But just as they were about to summon their Empyrean spirit treasures, Yi Tianyun had already rushed to the side of another heavenly god and started beating him up. As the other party had already summoned their Empyrean spirit treasures, they could still resist a little in a hurry. However, once Yi Tianyun's attacks are unleashed, they have to be stained with blood. Violent attacks, crazy attacks, 5 dragons roared in all directions, forcibly breaking through the other party's hasty defenses, and directly attacking the other party's body. Boom! Chapter 1556. Ding! Successfully killed evil spirit god. Obtained 6 million compressed experience points. Once again, piles of experience points flooded in. In a short while, 2 heavenly gods were killed just like that. In addition to the one killed before, that was 3 heavenly gods. 3 of the heavenly gods that were hard to nurture were killed just like that. For any force, a heavenly god was a great deal. But in Yi Tianyun's hands, they were really like cabbages, easily killed, harvesting their lives. Damn it, this guy is very strong. Now that they had completely woken up, they realized that someone who could sneak in was indeed not a simple person. But if they used their full strength, they were confident that they could withstand Yi Tianyun's attack, and even stop him. Unless Yi Tianyun's strength could increase a lot, in their opinion, they would definitely be able to subdue him. No matter how strong he is, this is the end. They flew into a rage, preparing to seal off the entire area, not letting Yi Tianyun escape. Yi Tianyun smiled at them and said, "Thank you for your hospitality, goodbye." The next moment, Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and he disappeared on the spot, causing them to miss their target. After killing them, Yi Tianyun immediately used the teleportation god stone. As long as they did not seal off the space, he could still use it. When they were about to seal off the space, the teleportation god stone was already activated, allowing him to easily escape from this area and arrive at the exit. Looks like I can only save a portion of the people. It's time to go. Yi Tianyun immediately rushed to the exit, and just as he rushed in, he saw the guards. The guards also saw him, but they were stunned at first, and their reaction was exactly the same as the others. They were all frightened by a human cultivator. There were many cultivators in captivity, but there was absolutely no human, not a single one. This meant that someone had sneaked in, and they still did not know. This was the only entrance. Could it be that the space in other places had been broken? While they were still in a daze, Yi Tianyun had already charged over, directly unleashing his full strength. Taking advantage of the fact that they hadn't summoned their Empyrean spirit treasures, he had already ruthlessly attacked. One of the heavenly deity guards was caught off guard and was easily killed by Yi Tianyun. Who would have thought that a lower-level Empyrean could erupt with such a formidable strength? Especially when they were wondering how Yi Tianyun got in. Successfully killed evil spirit heavenly god. Reward, 6 million EXP, 50. 000 compressed crazy point, 30. 000 SP obtained evil spirit bloodline, evil spirit soul, evil spirit bone. You have successfully killed someone of a higher level. You have received an additional 100,000 compressed experience points. As soon as the experience bar popped up, Yi Tianyun once again attacked another heavenly guardian. Only now did the heavenly guardian react, throwing out an Empyrean spirit treasure to counterattack. A hasty counterattack, for Yi Tianyun, is not enough. Die! Yi Tianyun seemed to have transformed into a gigantic dragon, the 5-dragon divine spear in his hand pierced through, immediately piercing through the counterattack power, piercing through the divine guard. Bang! The divine guard immediately exploded into a pile of blood mist, turning into a pile of EXP. 2 heavenly gods were killed so easily, and Yi Tianyun got a pile of EXP. Then he continued to rush forward, passing through a passage. A few heavenly gods appeared on the side. This passage is not long, but it is not short either. What Yi Tianyun explored before was just the periphery. After entering, there are other areas. But this is not a problem for him, he rushed out in one breath. After these heavenly gods saw him, they intercepted him. Bold intruder, where do you think you are going? When they saw Yi Tianyun flying over, they thought he was trying to escape, so they intercepted him. But when they rushed over, they found that Yi Tianyun didn't run away directly, but rushed towards them without even trying to hide. They had never seen their companions being killed in an instant before. They were all scattered in other areas, so they did not notice the situation immediately. It has to be said that their laziness gave Yi Tianyun an opportunity to take advantage of. They have been at ease for too long, there has been no enemy invasion, and nothing happened, so they will not be tense every day, they will occasionally slack off. Yi Tianyun did not waste time with them, smashing over in one breath. With a boom, he directly killed a heavenly god, and then killed another heavenly god guard. His speed is not slow, it can be said to soar to the extreme. The increase in his cultivation caused his overall strength to greatly increase. It is simply like meeting a god, killing a god, meeting a Buddha, killing a Buddha. Monster. They were all shocked. A lower-level heavenly lord can burst out with such a strong power. Is he really a lower-level heavenly lord? They quickly reacted, and then summoned their heavenly lord's spiritual treasures to attack. Tianyun still did not retreat, still killing. The 5-dragon divine spear pierced out, killing another heavenly god. Break through for me. Ding! Congratulations to player Tianyun for successfully breaking through to the early level of heavenly lord. Boom! The heavenly god guard, who originally wanted to suppress Tianyun, immediately felt an explosive force surge over. It can still be stronger. They were all trembling. How could they still erupt? Upon closer inspection, his eyeballs almost popped out. He had actually broken through in the blink of an eye. Shouldn't breaking through be done slowly? How could he break through while fighting? This was too strange, right? Die! Tianyun's gaze was ice-cold. Towards these evil spirit race, he did not show the slightest bit of mercy. Every attack was absolutely fatal. In one breath, he rushed over and killed several more heavenly gods in succession. They could not even block him. The level of these heavenly gods was actually quite average. In this lifetime, they would most likely end up as lower-level heavenly gods. Otherwise, they would not be here as guards. Therefore, after Tianyun broke through, his combat strength had already reached the level of a lower-level heavenly god. Compared to an ordinary lower-level heavenly god, he was a level stronger. As long as the other party did not completely erupt with power, he could kill them. Sure enough, after leveling up, killing these guys is much easier. Tianyun continued to kill, forcibly killing a path of blood. Originally, he wanted to sneak out, but now he did not even need to sneak out. He could directly kill his way out. After killing his way out, he finally came out of this world. After killing his way out, Tianyun was completely stunned. What entered his eyes was still the same star domain, but the aura it gave him was not a 5th-grade god domain, but a 4th-grade god domain. He did not expect this area to be in a 4th-grade god domain, not a 5th-grade god domain. Chapter 1557. Tianyun would never have thought that he would be in the Myriad Realms God Realm. This was the region near the vast god sect. It was still quite a distance away from the vast god sect, but it was still in the same region. He didn't expect it to be so close. He thought it would be in the 5th-grade god realm. Forget about this misjudgment, he didn't expect it to be so close. This shocked him. He didn't expect a breeding ground to be so close. How could so many people not discover it? However, the guards were so strong, so no one would dare to attack recklessly unless they wanted to die. Looks like I should leave first. Tianyun immediately flew away. There were still many heavenly gods inside. If a powerful heavenly god came out, it would be hard for him to escape. Then, he immediately used the teleportation god stone to escape to the vast god sect instead of flying. If a powerful heavenly god chased after him, he would still be caught with his speed. Sure enough, after he left, there were heavenly deities who charged out from inside, their auras overbearing. The one who came out was a medium heavenly god. His eyes were like torches as he looked around, but he didn't find any suspicious cultivators. Where are they? The medium heavenly god's eyes were filled with killing intent. When he found out that so many of his subordinates had died, he had the urge to vomit blood. He didn't expect this to happen. He was just in seclusion for a bit, and this happened. How could he not vomit blood? Evil spirit race. At this moment, a cultivator happened to pass by. When they saw this medium heavenly god, they were all stunned. The evil spirit race had a very bad reputation, and they weren't welcomed here. If they were discovered, they wouldn't be able to stay here anymore. They would definitely be chased out or killed. Die. The mid-level heavenly god stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion, crushing that divine lord like he was crushing an ant. His cultivation was too low, so he killed him directly. Their identities couldn't be seen here. The guards outside weren't from the evil spirit race. This was a cover. Now that they were discovered, they would definitely be killed. Damn it, where did they go? The evil spirit god searched everywhere. With his current identity, he really couldn't just wander around here. After searching for a while, he had no choice but to quickly return to his territory. I can't find him at all. This fellow really is fast. Empyrean god Vile Spirit had an ugly look on his face. There were quite a few Empyrean gods in front of him, and all of them had their heads lowered, not daring to meet his gaze in the slightest. They couldn't even catch a single person. How could they have the face to see anyone? Now that he had committed a grave mistake, he did not dare to look him in the eye. A human of the lower celestial realm cultivation base. He's running away just like that. Are you still heavenly gods? In my opinion, you're not even comparable to a star lord. The heavenly spirit god roared with rage. They could only lower their heads and listen. How could they dare to retort? Seeing that they didn't say a word, the evil spirit deity shook his head. We can't stay here any longer. That human will definitely spread the news of this place. At that time, if we get surrounded, this place will be destroyed. Yes, they didn't say much and immediately went to relocate. This world could be moved. Although it would take some effort, it was better than not being able to move and directly destroying this place, right? Especially after being discovered, it would be a huge problem. It was equivalent to exposing the things that they had been hiding all along. How could it not be a huge problem? After Tianyun rushed back to the vast divine sect, he immediately saw the sword ruler Heavenly Venerate and the others. Little junior brother, what's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry? When the sword ruler Heavenly Venerate saw Tianyun coming over, he smiled and said, speaking of which, Master came to ask us previously if you were back. It's good that you're fine. You made Master very worried and thought that you were swept away by the spatial turbulence. I was really swept away by the spatial turbulence. They were all stunned, sizing up Tianyun. He was swept away by the spatial turbulence, yet he could still return so smoothly and without any injuries. This matter is very important now. I need Master's help. Where's Master? Did he go back? Tianyun asked. Yes, he already went back. There are still many things to do in the heaven cultivation deity realm. Is there anything? If there's anything, you can tell us. We can help you. The sword ruler Heavenly Venerate and the others were puzzled. It's a very important matter, but your cultivation is too low. There's no way you can help at all. Tianyun shook his head. The opponents were all heavenly deities. Their cultivation bases were all heavenly venerates. How could they help? This. They looked at each other and immediately knew the seriousness of the situation. Then I'll go and ask Master for help first. I'll tell you the details when the time comes. Tianyun did not hesitate and turned to leave. He knew that if he did not hurry, he would not make it in time. He knew that the other party would definitely move immediately and would not stay here obediently. After he went out, he immediately used the teleportation divine stone to head to the heaven cultivation deity realm, leaving the sword ruler Heavenly Venerate looking at each other. Speaking of which, little junior brother's cultivation seems to have broken through to the middle level Heavenly Venerate. It seems so. They looked at each other and trembled violently, feeling that it was a little unbelievable. How long had it been, and he had broken through? When Tianyun quickly rushed to the heaven cultivation deity realm, he immediately came to the temple where the great Devis was. Hey, Tianyun, it's great that you're fine. I was worried that you would be swept away by the space turbulence. It's good that you're fine. Disciple was indeed swept away by the space turbulence, and I was swept to a very strange place. Long story short, disciple will now pass on to you what happened. Yi Tianyun immediately passed on the corresponding memory scene. No matter what, it was not as real as the scene. After the great Devis looked at it, his original calmness turned to anger, and then to shock. He did not expect that there would be so many ancient-level cultivators in captivity. That's the general situation. There are many experts there. If we don't hurry over, they will be transferred immediately, Yi Tianyun said in a deep voice. Okay, I'll send someone over now. The great Devis did not hesitate. This matter was of great importance. If he rescued so many ancient-level cultivators, he could definitely strengthen the forces here. If they sent people over to rescue, they would definitely be taken away. Yi Tianyun knew that this would happen, but there was no other way. He could not swallow them all in one go. His strength was still not enough. Moreover, if the great Devis went to rescue, he could also make a great contribution to himself, and his status would rise. For him, there were also many benefits. Chapter 1558. The great Devis was swift and decisive. He immediately summoned a large number of powerhouses. Although they were dissatisfied, they could only obey the great elder's words. After all, the great Devis had a region master as his father. Great elder, where are we going? They all felt unhappy. To leave without even explaining what the situation was. It's a very important matter. You will know when the time comes. It's hard to say for now, but we'll talk about it when we arrive. The great Devis said in a low voice, let's go at full speed. The speed of the spirit ship soared to its fastest speed. They were also using the best spirit ship. At the same time, the great Devis placed cores on the spirit ship as if they didn't cost anything. After some spirit ships were modified, they could use cores. With the support of the cores, their speed rose to a terrifying degree. They could instantly pass through half of the divine realm and soon pass through an entire divine realm. He knew that they had to be fast. If the other party changed directions, then they would miss. He knew what this meant to him. This was absolutely a great merit. In his heart, he was grateful to Yi Tianyun. Every time Yi Tianyun brings good luck to him, it really makes him feel very happy. Recruiting this disciple is the most worthwhile. As the many elders saw the great Devis use the cores, they didn't know what to do. Unless it was an urgent situation, no one would use them like this. The cores were so valuable. If they were to use them recklessly, it would be very painful. Great elder, you brought us all out. There are no elders in the heavenly cultivation divine realm. If you don't explain what is going on, then that is disrespect to us. They originally had some complaints, so now that they were suddenly pulled out, how could they feel happy? This is a battle. I estimate that there will soon be a battle. You had best prepare yourselves. As long as you are prepared, it will be a great merit. The great Devis didn't directly say this because he didn't tell them the details. Everything would have to wait until they arrived. A great merit? They frowned. Was there anything they could do to earn a great merit? Excavate the ancient heavenly god ruins? Or was it a special mission? Everything was unclear. He felt that the boundless heavenly deity was bragging a little. Until now, they did not know what they could do to make a great contribution. The great Devis didn't say much and continued to accelerate forward at full speed. This made them feel unhappy again. Wasn't this clearly whetting their appetite? Even after asking for so long, he didn't say anything more. We're here. The great Devis controlled the spirit ship and charged into the myriad worlds god realm. When they saw that they had entered the myriad worlds god realm, they all looked at each other. Could it be that the vast divine sect has been invaded? But even if the vast divine sect was invaded, would they be able to pull us over at will? That's right. How is this a great merit? It's just a small matter. They complained and felt very unhappy. He had some expectations before, but now it seemed like it was all nonsense. What great merit! It was a complete scam. They didn't hide it at all. They began to discuss behind the great Devis's back, and all of them wanted to leave. I remember that the rule of the Heaven Cultivation God realm is to listen to the instructions of a higher level. Have you all forgotten? The great Devis frowned. They hadn't even started fighting, but it was already a mess here. That's right, but that's a different matter. This is your personal matter. We can choose to refuse. Moreover, this has nothing to do with the Heaven Cultivation God realm. We can refuse even more. One of the elders was extremely unhappy. Good. If you don't want to, you can leave now. The great Devis said coldly. If you want to leave, I won't accompany you. Several of the elders quickly left, and Tianyun didn't say anything, he just let them go. Fortunately, only some of the elders left. There were still many elders who stayed. Most of them supported the great Devis. Even the second elder, who had been defeated by the great Devis, didn't leave. He smelled something different. It was very likely that they weren't going to save the vast divine sect. However, he didn't ask. He would know the truth later. After the great Devis watched them leave, he said to the remaining elders, there will be a big battle later. Please unite against the enemy. Don't be careless. The enemy is the evil spirit race. Evil spirit race? A cold light burst out of their eyes, but there was more killing intent. They didn't expect that they were going to deal with the evil spirit race. This was something that they had not expected. That's right, it's the evil spirit race. This is the area that my disciple found. It's hidden in the myriad worlds God realm. As for the rest, you'll find out very soon. It's a little late now, mainly because some of the elders have arrived too late, and are stalling for time. Therefore, it's very likely that there will be some changes. As he spoke, he controlled the spirit ship and flew towards the evil spirit race's territory. Soon, he arrived outside the passage. Then, without hesitation, he rushed in, activating the spirit ship and piercing through it. There were still 1 or 2 heavenly gods inside. Before they could react, the spirit ship had already passed by. After charging in, everyone saw the heavenly Tao shackles. They didn't know what was sealed inside. However, they did see the evil spirit race, who was moving to the side. More than half of them have already been moved. Tianyun swept his gaze over and discovered that those areas had all been taken away. There were only a few areas left. This speed was really fast. They were already fast enough, but they didn't expect the other party to be even faster. It really is the evil spirit race. When they saw it, they immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that there really was an evil spirit race. Killing the evil spirit race couldn't be considered a great contribution. It could only be considered as carrying out justice on behalf of the heavens. But very quickly, they noticed that the evil spirit race was unlocking the heavenly Tao shackles, revealing groups of cultivators inside. The cultivation of those cultivators seems to be a little low. No, their auras are very different, a bit like an ancient aura. It really is. Could it be that they were all captured by the evil spirit race and trapped here? If they are all ancient bloodlines, then this is more than just a great contribution. They instantly went crazy. This was truly a great contribution, it was simply too great. Thinking back to the elders who had left in anger, they felt some sympathy. When they settled the matter here, all of them would have merit. As for the elders who had left, they could only watch from the side. Chapter 1559. Without hesitation, they rushed out of the spirit ship and charged toward heavenly god evil spirit. They immediately cooperated and circled around each other, forming a joint formation. Only then would it be easier to deal with them. Moreover, they were companions to begin with. If they worked together, it would be much easier to deal with them. The heavenly god evil spirit's expressions changed when he saw them charging over. He didn't expect them to arrive so quickly. They thought that even if Tianyun escaped, it would take him some time to catch up. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, he would bring so many powerful cultivators, more than a dozen heavenly gods. More than a dozen heavenly gods was more than half of the powerful cultivators of the cultivation god realm. The great Devasa's eyes lit up when he saw the situation. He hadn't made a wasted trip. As long as he could see something, he would have done a good job. Master, they've already evacuated many areas. They're too fast. Tianyun shook his head. He thought they were fast enough, but they were even faster. They first unlocked the heavenly Tao shackles, then took the people away and quickly left. They were powerful cultivators, so they could directly take them into their inner worlds without any effect. Originally, these small worlds could be moved, but with the heavenly Tao shackles, it wouldn't be so easy to evacuate. They could only obediently unlock them first, then take them into their inner worlds and take them away. It was that simple. It was simple, but it would take a bit of time. If they directly took the small worlds and left, they would really have come empty-handed. It's fine. As long as we can gain something, it's a victory. The great Devas laughed. Stay here for now. Leave this to us. It looks like there are a lot of powerful cultivators here. We'll have to ask for reinforcements. There were many heavenly god evil spirit here, so it would take some effort to deal with them. Since Tianyun had killed many of them, they didn't need to deal with too many. How dare you trespass on our territory? At this time, the medium heavenly deity descended. His incomparably powerful aura pressed down, causing all of them to freeze. They were actually forced to a stop. There were many elders present, but none of them were at the level of an intermediate heavenly god. This was the difference between a grade 5 god realm and a grade 4 god realm. If the other party stayed in a grade 4 god realm, it was very likely that he had a grade 5 god realm backing him up. When the great Devas saw that it was a mid-level celestial god, his face darkened. He didn't think that there would be such a powerful being here, but it wasn't unexpected. It was impossible that there were no experts guarding this place. It was just a little too strong. Your territory. The great Devas said coldly, the evil spirit race also has territory in this area. You vile creatures, haven't you harmed enough cultivators in the battle of god emperors? I didn't expect you to not know your place and even imprison so many cultivators here. They were all extremely disgusted with the evil spirit race. Most of the forces were extremely disgusted with the evil spirit race. It was impossible to wipe them all out. They were so widely distributed that it was impossible to wipe them all out. Thus, there were still some evil spirit race left. As long as they did not get close to him, they would not care. Now that they were in the myriad realms god realm, they felt extremely disgusted. I was wondering who was so arrogant. So it's the great Devas. People from the heaven cultivation god realm still dare to interfere. Heavenly god Valen sneered. Be sensible and pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, your heaven cultivation god realm will have no place here. This evil spirit god was threatening instead, not afraid of the great Devas at all. It seems like you still recognize me. The great Devas said indifferently. I didn't expect that I would be quite famous. Of course, a hothead. Why wouldn't I know? Heavenly god Valen said disdainfully. Your heaven cultivation god realm can still survive in a grade 4 god realm, but what about a grade 5 god realm? Think carefully, don't think too highly of yourself. Don't really think that the other god realms will have a problem with us. His words were very straightforward and even carried a threat. To put it bluntly, his backer was a grade 5 god realm. Why would the great Devas dare to mess around? The rest of the elders immediately did not dare to move. Thinking about it carefully, the pressure was really great. If they were suppressed by a grade 5 god realm, they might really be seriously injured. What a joke. If you were so calm, why were you in such a hurry to retreat? Why didn't you just open up and let everyone watch? The great Devas sneered. Don't think that we're all fools. You're just stalling for time now. All of you, attack. If they were so domineering, they would have come at us directly or attacked everywhere. What was the point of hiding? Tianyun smiled at the side. As expected of his master, he was not scared by a few simple words. If he was scared by this, then he must have been kicked in the head by a donkey. From all the aspects, they just didn't want to be exposed. If they were exposed casually, there would definitely be big problems. I think you're the real joke, and an idiot at that. Heavenly God Wallen said coldly. When did I say that I would come at you directly? I will slowly kill you, secretly and slowly. If you have the ability, why don't you try? They did not dare to do anything openly, but they could do it secretly. Continuous sneak attacks could still cripple a god realm. The elders had ugly expressions. What they feared the most was a sneak attack from behind. It would definitely be very difficult to deal with. The great Devis looked at him with narrowed eyes. When he was about to say something, a voice suddenly came from behind. So what if you want to fight? At this time, a heavenly god walked out from the passage behind them. He stepped on the void and instantly appeared beside them. This person was none other than Regent Lord Xiutian. Regent Lord Xiutian's cultivation was at the mid-level heavenly god level. He felt no pressure against him. The opponent was only an early-level heavenly venerable, so there was naturally no problem. Regent Lord Xiutian. They were excited and were just about to say whether or not they should leave. Now that Regent Lord Xiutian had come, they had to decide what to do. Regent Lord Xiutian. The great Devis also stood respectfully at the side. Child, you've done well. The cultivation heaven domain lord lightly smiled, revealing a rare smile. Thinking back to how he had always had an ice-cold face before, it had never had any effect, but now he smiled. We just can't lower our heads, especially to the evil spirit race. Chapter 1560. Of course, Empyrean god Wallen was not one of the main culprits. The faction behind him, the evil spirit race, was one of the main culprits. Many factions loathed them, especially those that had been destroyed in the past. They definitely did not want to let the main culprits go. Empyrean god Wallen's expression darkened. As expected, there were still people who knew the truth. Even though Regent Lord Xiutian was not an ancient-level existence, he still knew a lot of details. This meant that the Xiutian god realm's foundation was rather ancient. Perhaps there was an ancient-level existence behind them. Based on this situation, there was definitely an expert supporting them. Otherwise, how could Regent Lord Xiutian be so confident? Speechless? Regent Lord Xiutian sneered. A bunch of shameless fools. You still want to threaten us? Even if we die, we won't let you go. Back then, we were also destroyed by you. As soon as Regent Lord Xiutian finished speaking, he charged toward Empyrean god Wallen. At the same time, he said coldly, attack. Regent Lord Xiutian did not waste time. The main thing was that reinforcements had also arrived. Immediately, many more Empyrean gods rushed over and completely sealed off the area, not letting them escape. Regent Lord Xiutian had wasted so much time talking to them because he was waiting for reinforcements. Only then would he be completely confident. Before coming, he had said a few more words to stall for time. Now it was different. As soon as reinforcements arrived, they would immediately attack. Go! After hearing the order, the great Devis and the others were invigorated. They charged over and surrounded them. This time, the Empyrean gods they had brought had a suppressive effect. As for Tianyun, he was left to the side. They thought that he could not deal with the Empyrean gods, so he was left to the side. Damn it, let's fight. Empyrean god Wallen was furious. They were all trapped inside. Even if there were other passages, they could not easily escape. So many people had caught up. How could they escape? Thus, they could only fight head-on. Immediately, they collided. A battle between Empyrean gods had begun. The Shotian god realm situation was undoubtedly better. After joining forces to form a formation, it would be easier to suppress them. However, the situation wasn't much better. These Empyrean gods were simply too powerful. After devouring quite a few primordial bloodlines, the evil spirit god's own power had increased dramatically. It was much more difficult to deal with them. Several heavenly gods were needed to suppress a single heavenly spirit god. This was the benefit of bloodline power. Otherwise, why would they keep them in captivity to absorb ancient bloodlines and strengthen their own bloodline density? As the concentration increased, it would be able to erupt with even greater power. However, suppressing them was only a matter of time. If they could suppress them in terms of numbers, then dealing with them naturally wouldn't be a big problem. At that time, it would be a matter of casualties. If the other party was forced into a corner, they would definitely launch a vicious counterattack. Even if he were to die, he would drag a few down with him. As their battle became more and more intense and became white-hot, a figure quietly appeared on the side. Taking advantage of their momentary lapse in concentration, a cold light flashed, and 5 massive dragons shot forth, striking one of the heavenly spirit gods from the back. Boom! This heavenly god was directly killed. The heavenly god elders who were locked in a stalemate with the evil spirit god were all dumbfounded. Just as they were about to go all out, the evil spirit god was instantly killed by Yi Tianyun. The first one. Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, and he hid in the void again, silently leaving this area. Immediately after, he circled to the back of another heavenly spirit god and launched another sneak attack. Again. This heavenly spirit god immediately sensed it. Previously, when Yi Tianyun successfully launched a sneak attack on his companion, many heavenly spirit gods had noticed, so they would definitely be more vigilant. Thus, when Yi Tianyun launched a sneak attack, he immediately turned around to defend. With a loud boom, this heavenly spirit god was sent flying, and the 3 Empyrean spirit treasures all trembled. Overall, he wasn't seriously injured. These heavenly spirit gods had all unleashed their full power. Since they were prepared, they wouldn't be easily killed. They might be able to block Yi Tianyun's attack, but what about the attacks of the heavenly gods behind them? Boom! The heavenly gods behind them wouldn't let go of this opportunity, and they immediately launched a fierce attack, sending the evil spirit god flying and severely injuring him. At this moment, Yi Tianyun swept over and ruthlessly added a spear strike, instantly killing this heavenly spirit god. His decisiveness made all the elders look at him in a new light, especially with such destructive power. Was this really something an Empyrean could possess? After killing him, Yi Tianyun very proficiently hid in the void, preparing to launch another sneak attack. This was the effect he wanted. He wanted to coordinate with the attacks of the heavenly gods and use his ghostly figure to achieve a surprise attack. So what if they knew he was sneak attacking? Don't forget, this was a team battle, not a solo battle. It's that human brat. It's him that caused this situation. Heavenly God Avalon's eyes were bloodshot. A huge problem had appeared in this area that had been peaceful all this while. This made him furious, and he wanted nothing more than to crush Yi Tianyun. However, he was currently unable to split himself and couldn't attend to that side at all. If the sneak attack continued like this, everyone on their side would really die. Most importantly, if they died, they would die. They wouldn't be able to drag a few down with them. This kid is not bad. Regent Lord Shotian's eyes were full of praise. They didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be able to do this, and they all had a whole new level of respect for him. Let alone them, even the vast heavenly deities were shocked by this scene. How did Yi Tianyun's cultivation base break through to become a mid-level heavenly venerable unknowingly? This breakthrough speed, I really don't want to talk about it. The great Devas observed the situation here as he attacked. Yi Tianyun killed back and forth with great pleasure. These were all heavenly gods. If he could kill a few more, he would be able to happily level up again. Thus, he didn't get tired of this. He wielded the 5-dragon divine spear and weaved back and forth. One by one, the heavenly gods let out painful wails under his sneak attack. If they didn't block, they would be hit. If they tried to block, they would be sneak attacked by the heavenly gods on the side. This kind of feeling was really sullen. They would die without any dignity. Let's die together. At this time, a heavenly god evil spirit was enraged. When he saw Tianyun charging over with his spear, his body swelled. He looked coldly at Tianyun, and revealed a sinister smile. Boom! Chapter 1561. Ha, that's our spirit. When heavenly god Wallen saw this, he laughed loudly. How could such an explosion not kill a middle-level heavenly venerable? Tianyun's sneak attack had finally reached their limit. Even if they had to self-destruct, they had to kill Tianyun. Since they would definitely die from the sneak attack, they might as well throw caution to the wind and self-destruct together with Tianyun. As long as they could kill Tianyun, everything would be much easier. Perhaps they would still lose. At least they wouldn't be in this situation where they were constantly being sneak attacked, and they couldn't even touch a hair. Just when they thought that Tianyun would be killed or seriously injured, Tianyun slowly walked out from the side and said with a smile, "The power of this self-destruction is really not bad. It's a bit like watching fireworks. It's the kind that fan you uses to celebrate festivals. It's really beautiful. Can you detonate a few more?" He wasn't injured at all. Forget about killing him, he didn't even have a scratch on him. At the moment when the other party exploded, Tianyun immediately teleported away and easily escaped the range of the explosion. It was still quite difficult to injure him. Unless the surrounding space was completely sealed and he couldn't use teleportation, it was impossible to injure him. Heavenly God Wallen's smile froze. He thought that Tianyun would definitely die, or at least be injured. Who would have thought that he would be completely fine? He was still as lively as ever. Ha, I knew he would be fine. The great Devis laughed heartily, feeling extremely carefree. Regent Lord Xiutian also felt extremely carefree. He really thought that Tianyun would be injured, but now it seemed that he was completely fine. This meant that he could continue to sneak attack and drive them crazy. These guys, let's go. Heavenly God Wallen gritted his teeth. If they continued to delay, they would only be wasting their time and lives. They could only choose to retreat. After sending a mental message, Empyrean God Varen immediately turned and fled into the depths of the minor world. Without question, there had to be an exit within the minor world. However, in the process of their escape, they would definitely be chased and beaten up. In the end, they would definitely be beaten half to death and would not be able to easily fight back. Therefore, they might as well go all out and see if they could defeat them. Who would have thought that Tianyun would be so ruthless and ruin their plans? Even if their combined strength was enough to crush the heavenly gods in the heavenly god realm, under Tianyun's crazy sneak attacks, they could only wait for death. You want to leave? It's too late. How could Regent Lord Xiutian and the others allow them to escape? Their morale skyrocketed as they chased after them. Tianyun also chased after them. These were all fat sheep, how could he let them go? Following that, they were chased all the way until they threw away their helmets and abandoned their armors. One heavenly deity after another was killed. In the end, Empyrean God Wallen managed to escape. He was the only one who managed to escape, the other Empyrean gods all perished. Empyrean God Wallen's cultivation was high enough and he also had a lower heavenly god spirit treasure. That was why he was able to escape. However, he was also in a very sorry state. After being beaten up by Regent Lord Xiutian, how could he possibly be fine? He still managed to escape. Tianyun watched helplessly as Empyrean God Wallen drilled into a special escape channel. This channel was reserved for escape. This type of channel would also recognize the person. Thus, if they wanted to chase after him, they would first have to destroy the divine seal on it before they could leave. By the time they destroyed it, it was unknown where Empyrean god Wallen had escaped to. Thus, they could only give up on chasing after him. Immediately, they all returned to investigate the situation. There were still several areas that had not been taken away. These could be considered good spoils of war. Following that, they all unlocked the shackles of the heavenly Tao and rescued the people inside. There was no need for Yi Tianyun to do anything. The great Devis was a divine inscription master, so there was no need to worry about unlocking the shackles. In the remaining areas, there were those with relatively low cultivation. It was clear that they had first transferred away those with high cultivation or higher quality. Although it was a pity, at least they had saved a lot of people. Too many have been transferred away. If I had come a little earlier, I would have definitely been able to leave more behind. The great Devis knew from Yi Tianyun that there were many areas here. Now that there were only a few areas left, how could he not be angry? The other divine elders lowered their heads in embarrassment, not daring to look at the great Devis. Previously, the great Devis had said that he had urgent matters to attend to, but they had still dragged their feet. By the time they had arrived, a long time had already passed. If they had come back then, they believed that there would have been even more people here. But there were no ifs. Since it had already happened, they only felt a little ashamed. Even if the great Devis wanted to send out a message to kill the evil spirit race and save the cultivators with ancient bloodlines, it was impossible. The emergency message token could only send a message. It could not accurately convey what the situation was. Thus, they had come slowly. In the end, it was because they felt uncomfortable and did not want to listen to the great Devis's orders. It's fine. We've already done very well. At least we know what they're doing. The Cultivation Heaven Domain Lord was very satisfied with his son, and his smile did not stop. He then turned to look at the other elders and said in a low voice, "I don't want to say anything more about your mistakes. This time, the great elder has made a great contribution. Not only did he know the situation here, but he also saved a large number of cultivators with potential. Here, I only want to say one thing. I don't want this to happen a second time." The Cultivation Heaven Domain Lord was really angry. It should have been better, but it was all because of this group of idiots that this situation had occurred. This made him feel very dissatisfied. Fortunately, there were still some people left. Otherwise, they would have really missed out. The most important thing was that it would affect his son's contribution. If they missed out, they would definitely be criticized by others. This was not a good thing for them. Fortunately, they did not miss out. They could justifiably make a great contribution. Yes, Domain Lord. The many elders were really convinced by the great Devis this time. He had indeed made a great contribution, and it was enough to stabilize his position. After not returning for so long, he suddenly took the position of the great elder. Many people were still not convinced. Although he had won the bet was a bet, not a contribution. Usually, to become a great elder, one had to have enough contribution. Therefore, the great elder and the second elder were only moved back a position, and were not chased away. Unless they made a big mistake, their positions were still very stable. Now, it was different. The great Devis had made a great contribution, so he could naturally sit in the position justifiably. At this moment, the great Devis stretched out his hand and gave Yi Tianyun a thumbs up, expressing his gratitude to Yi Tianyun. If it were not for Yi Tianyun, he would not know how to make a contribution. He was usually busy with other things in the Cultivation Heaven domain, so he could not make a contribution at all. Chapter 1562. After everything was over, all of the cultivators had been relocated. This was within Yi Tianyun's expectations. However, aside from that, there was still one more thing that had yet to be resolved, and that was the matter regarding Heavenly Cultivation God. Heavenly Cultivation God's betrayal made the great Devis extremely furious. However, he didn't say this in front of all of the elders. Instead, he planned to explain this to his father in person. Sometimes, it was better not to act rashly and alert the enemy. After being relocated, the Heaven Cultivation God realm was astonished when they learned of the details of the situation. Who would have thought that something like this could happen? They even managed to save a bunch of very valuable cultivators. In a god realm where prodigies were rampant, they were naturally very welcome to join. After all, their bloodlines were all ancient-level beings. This meant that their bloodlines were much more powerful. If their bloodlines were similar, then they would be equivalent to their ancestors. How could anyone not be shocked by this? As such, the great Devis was immediately promoted to the top, and his prestige was extremely high. Prestige was something that could change at will. As long as one made some contributions, it could change. As such, the great Devis had always wanted to make some contributions to the Heaven Cultivation God realm. However, contributions weren't something that could be casually dropped from the sky. It's about time to report this matter to the Heaven Cultivation God realm. Come with me. The great Devis gestured for Yi Tianyun to come with him. Both of them had made contributions, but Yi Tianyun didn't join them, so the credit belonged to the great Devis. Yi Tianyun nodded and followed along. He had to get justice for this matter. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to face himself. Soon, the two of them arrived at the Heaven Cultivation God Palace. The Heaven Cultivation God was busy assigning these cultivators to different areas. These cultivators all had to cultivate hard. If they wanted to unleash the full potential of their bloodlines, they had to be allocated reasonably. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to unleash the full potential of their bloodlines. Shotian Region Lord. The great Devis led Yi Tianyun inside. In front of outsiders, they had to address him as Region Lord. Yi Tianyun was not an outsider, but as long as it was someone else, he would have to address him respectfully. Grand Elder, you're here. This time, you've really done a great service. I'm really happy. For some reason, the Heavenly Cultivation Domain Lord was very happy. One must know that when the vast heavenly deity came to prove himself, the heavenly deity didn't support him. Instead, he supported the elders. Now, his feelings had completely changed. He was completely on the side of the great Devis. Without a doubt, that was a ruse. If he wanted to change the current situation, it wouldn't be easy for him as the region lord. He would need to rely on external forces to change it. The inside was already rotten to the core, so he needed to chop off the rotten areas with an axe from the outside. There were already some initial effects, but it would still take some time to completely change it. The great Devis were working hard on this, and so were the Shotian region lord. Domain Lord Shotian, there's an important matter this time, and it's a very serious matter. Although it can't be considered a great service, it will affect the direction of the Shotian divine realm. The great Devis said solemnly. What is it? The smile on Cultivation Sky Domain Lord's face gradually disappeared. Heavenly God Shotian is a traitor. He wanted to kill me and even allied with the heavenly gods of the other divine realms to surround me. Fortunately, I left quickly. Otherwise, I would have been surrounded and even killed. The great Devis took out a piece of paper and handed it over. This is the corresponding list of traitors and the forces that colluded with them. The reason they did this is to get rid of me so that their people can seize power. This way, when the region lord changes in the future, many things can be changed. If there were no accidents, the next successor would be the great Devis. Therefore, as long as the great Devis was eliminated, everything would change. The next successor definitely wouldn't be the great Devis. It could be the second elder, or even the third elder. After the Heavenly Cultivation Domain Lord took the paper and glanced at it, his expression became frighteningly gloomy. After a moment, he said, word by word, if this is true, then it really is a change in the situation. It will affect the strength of the Heavenly Cultivation Domain. Do you know what this means? I do. It's not that I'm dead. I'm just afraid that they will use this to join forces with the other divine realms to devour the Shotian divine realm. When that time comes, the Shotian divine realm won't be the Shotian divine realm anymore. It will belong to someone else. The great Devis said in a solemn voice. Where did you hear this? Cultivation Sky Domain Lord asked with a solemn expression. My disciple said that Heavenly God Shotian was in a critical situation. He performed a soul search and found the corresponding memories, the great Devis said. Cultivation Sky Domain Lord raised his head and looked into Yi Tianyun's eyes. His gaze was filled with an invasive intent, and it struck directly into Yi Tianyun's heart. If one's soul wasn't powerful enough, their legs would definitely give out from under them, and they would kneel to the ground. However, Yi Tianyun was completely unscathed. His soul was far more powerful than his cultivation base. Cultivation Sky Domain Lord was a little surprised to see that Yi Tianyun was completely unscathed. He didn't think that Yi Tianyun would be so calm. It looked like he really was quite powerful. Do you trust your disciple that much? Cultivation Sky Domain Lord asked. That's right, I trust my disciple that much. The great Devis spoke in a firm voice. If you don't even trust your own disciple, then how can you be their master? These things could indeed be fabricated. Even images could be fabricated. There was nothing that couldn't be fabricated. As long as one wanted to fabricate something, nothing would be an issue. However, the great Devis trusted his disciple without the slightest bit of doubt. All right. Cultivation Sky Domain Lord said in a solemn voice, then give me some time to investigate this thoroughly. The great Devis trusted Yi Tianyun, but the Cultivation Sky Domain Lord didn't trust Yi Tianyun. Even though Yi Tianyun had performed a meritorious deed, he didn't dare to trust him recklessly. This was a matter that concerned the entire Heaven Cultivation God realm. It wasn't a family matter, and it wasn't something that could be easily resolved by executing a single elder. On that piece of paper was a long list of all the elders and powers involved. If he were to do anything, the entire Heaven Cultivation God realm would be mobilized. No problem. The great Devis wasn't surprised. It would be strange if he just nodded casually. Unless he was the Domain Lord, he wouldn't dare to act recklessly. Then, the great Devis left with Yi Tianyun. After leaving, the great Devis said, you don't have to worry about this. The Cultivation Sky Domain Lord will definitely investigate thoroughly. He said he would investigate, so he will definitely investigate thoroughly. After all, other people need evidence. Chapter 1563. Yi Tianyun already knew that this wasn't something that could be easily resolved. Such a huge Heaven Cultivation God realm couldn't be handled so carelessly. It was unreasonable to arrest him just by listening to his side of the story. In the end, it was because they didn't have enough power. If Shotian Domain Lord had seen it with his own eyes, then there would be no need for evidence. Now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he needed to look into it and find evidence. When the other disciples asked if they had any evidence, how would Shotian Domain Lord explain? Sometimes, it wasn't about whether Shotian Domain Lord trusted them, but whether others trusted Yi Tianyun. What could an outsider prove? What evidence could he have? If it were Yi Tianyun's forces, it wouldn't matter what Yi Tianyun did. But now it was different. Yi Tianyun could understand the complicated relationship. The relationship was so messy that it affected many elders and deacons. If they were uprooted, the Heaven Cultivation God realm would be half crippled. This wasn't an exaggeration. Otherwise, Shotian Domain Lord wouldn't be so cautious. Some things made him angry, but he had to be rational. Without rationality, the Heaven Cultivation God realm would really be crippled. This wasn't the God realm of the three realms. There was no power of faith like Yi Tianyun, let alone his ability to carry out orders. Domain Lords weren't invincible, and they couldn't do whatever they wanted. Otherwise, why would there be so many elders? The elders were the ones who restricted the domain master's authority, and they could influence the domain master's decisions at crucial moments. In the God realm of the three realms, whatever Tianyun said was the law. No one could question his decisions. This was the difference between them. What Tianyun needed was absolute control. He was domineering. He would use whatever methods he needed and would never be lenient. After saying goodbye to the great Devis, he chose to return to the God realm of the three realms. He had saved so many cultivators this time, so it was time to come back and make arrangements. After returning, he communicated with Shueyun. She immediately arranged for a few planets to release the rescued cultivators. After being released one by one, they were very excited and very grateful for this. How could they not be excited to meet such a savior? Tianyun's request was very simple. He wanted them to live here and join the three realms God realm. Just like other cultivators, they had to complete missions and obtain contribution points to exchange for resources. They had no objections to this at all. To them, as long as they were not harassed by the evil spirit race, this place was heaven. Not to mention doing missions, even if they were asked to sweep the floor, they wouldn't have the slightest objection. After all, every once in a while, he would have to worry about whether he would be captured and devoured. He had always been worried and afraid. That kind of feeling was extremely uncomfortable. It was simply a nightmare. Now that Tianyun had awakened them from their nightmare, they were naturally extremely grateful. As for the arrangements, they would listen to Tianyun, and their loyalty to Tianyun skyrocketed. However, it could only be said to be a part of it. It would still take some time for him to be completely loyal to them. It would take some time to assimilate them before they could become one with the three realms God realm. They have limitless potential and all have ancient bloodlines. If we make use of them, the effects will be astonishing. Of course, everything has to be done naturally. We can't force it. Tianyun was still very interested in these ancient bloodlines. If they were to marry into the three realms God realm, the descendants would definitely be stronger. However, he would not force the marriage. That would be too disgusting. Don't you think I know that? Shueyun rolled her eyes at him and smiled. This time, you brought back another group of experts. It seems that our three realms God realm will become stronger very soon. Yes, it will. It will become stronger very soon, and it will become stronger very quickly. Tianyun's eyes burned. He didn't have much time. Within 1,000 years, he had to stand firm. He had to be above average in the 4th grade God realm. Otherwise, he would be finished. Unless he stayed here to guard, the three realms God realm would definitely be finished. However, he would have to leave sooner or later. He couldn't stay here forever. Hence, it was especially important for him to strengthen his own forces. In the remaining time, Tianyun participated in the arrangements and paid attention to the situation. At the same time, he understood their situation so that he could make other arrangements. Following that, he went to his disciples to give them some pointers. Their cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. They were much stronger than before. Tianyun was very satisfied. He had dug out their potential. They would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. That's about it. That's the rest. After making some arrangements, Tianyun returned to the courtyard to rest for a while. He had been too busy. He needed a good rest. However, he didn't lie down to sleep. Instead, he started cultivating. Cultivating was a race against time. He was no exception. Right now, he needed to condense the dark core and take the dark trial. This was the last trial. As long as he completed it, the three realms would truly be his. Previously, he had done it to slow down. Now that his cultivation had broken through, there shouldn't be any problems. He could easily deal with a lower heavenly god, so the dark trial was naturally not a problem. Previously, he could pass the trial alone. Now that his cultivation had increased by so much, it would undoubtedly be easier. Then, he immediately started to condense the dark planet. He found many dark cores in his inventory. These were all obtained from the evil spirit race. Without any hesitation, he absorbed them all. He, who had many cores, was very familiar with cultivating these things. Without any difficulty, the dark planet was easily condensed, forming a third-grade dark planet. The third grade was relatively low. It was still too ordinary for him. However, it was already very good that he could condense it. Now that I have condensed 8 planets, I still need 2 more. Now that he had 8 planets, 5 of them were equivalent to the 5 elements core. Thunder planet, light planet, and dark planet, that was 8. 8 planets. That was enough to scare people to death. Now, if someone could condense 2 planets, they would be grinning from ear to ear. Yet, he could condense 8. This was not the end. He still needed to condense 2 more to reach the standard of breaking through to the heavenly God realm. Forget it. There's no hurry. There's still a lot of time. There's still a long way to go. He was only at the early stage of the intermediate heavenly venerable stage. He still had a lot of experience. Even if he killed more than 10 heavenly gods, he would need to kill more than 10 to level up. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.